play back. Alright, welcome everyone. No mods like that. Mods like that. Here, yeah, let me rewind it here so it's relevant to talk from the beginning. So everything here loaded up is through, just the Seventh Heaven mod manager. And everything is so straightforward, it's nice. And there is a key one to talk about, and it's doing what it's doing right there on screen. The other smaller ones relevant that are here are, let me start with the context, actually. So I'm going to be redoing the FF7 video, and I do want to talk about mods in it. I don't know how in-depth I'm going to go in the video, in the port review itself, but at the very least, I'll have this stream to refer to with some of them. And that's the context. So we have on this list PSX Battle Shadows and Vertex Snapping mod. There's a 60 FPS, 30 FPS gameplay mod, which is turning everything up to 60 FPS here. I have AI upscaled field textures through SYW. It's upscaled the FMVs and the field textures. But we have an internal resolution of like 480p. So that one sort of really isn't relevant. Is this OG PC version? This works on both. This is literally installed to my new version of the PC port. And I played it through that, because I'm pretty sure we talked about it before when it came out. The original PC port is just underneath. I also have my friend Phil here, who I have done FF7 stuff with before, and I'm excited for him to see more of what's here as well.
Oh, everybody.
So more of these mods. Let's see, the proper borderless window, 16:9, as you've seen. 60 FPS. Wait, oh, that's part of the one mod. Analog controls, which the original game did not have. So it's crazy that they modded in analog controls like that. Auto run is on. There are options for the speed hacking, soft reset, skip FMVs, and auto attack and random battle are in here too. Yeah, and internal resolution scale is another one. Just for the more closer to the PS1 look, I have it set to this 1. If you want it set to auto, you can. Now, the big mod here that we're taking a look at is the Shinra Archeology cut. That's the retranslation project we're looking at here. And that's the big one we're going to be focusing on. Here, let me take care of Niles here real quick. Ooh.
Yeah, I think the most interesting part about the recut mod specifically is normally when it comes to translation and localization, I don't know if I'm cutting it in out for whatever reason. But normally when it comes to like localization and translation, I'm the kind of person that is very much like, I don't really like the conversations that are had around it for the most part.
Yeah,
but
I don't
FF7
either.
is such a unique use case where it's like everybody involved with the project was like, yeah, sorry guys, we kind of screwed up. So.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was doing research on that for the video and to talk more about it. And it was things that always bugged me about it, like, we know it was handled by one person, it was translated by one person, but do we know who that is? The answer is yeah,
Right.
we do. And we do know the story of everything that went on there, and it's been talked about in interviews like as far back as like 2017. And it's just not like commonly talked about. The dude who was responsible, I have it written in my notes his name. I really like this story. They talked about it in a Polygon interview. No, it was in a different interview. The dude who was in charge of translating at Squaresoft back at this time for FF7, he quit midway through Xenogears. Is when he stopped. After
Wow.
he quit, they got 2 more translators who started working on it mid project. Who were like, guys, can we not work on this? Because we are looking at the Xenogears script and we don't know what the fuck is going on. We don't know anything about this game.
That is crazy, especially with a game like Xenogears that goes into so many different directions. That is nuts.
Yeah, it wasn't until FF7's success that more interest was paid into investing. Like the success of there was literally a number for it. Up to prior to FF7's release, 95% of Square's revenue was all domestic in the Japanese market. And then it blew up with FF7. And that's when Japanese dev teams became interested in localization and having their products reach out. And then that came with a lot of miscommunication and misunderstanding of how a lot of things have to work, such as they need dev code to do what they have to do.
Right.
That was like a foreign concept that they might need something like the game's source code to do work. I'm trying to work. Oh, Michael Basket. That was who the original translator was. But there was a story I was reading about with. It wasn't when Michael was hired. It was when somebody else who did the interview. I'm gonna find their name here. When they were hired at Square, they were day one given a task of translating Chocobo Dungeon, and he was given source code off of one employee PC that was completely incomplete. And it was a learning lesson for Square themselves, who gave him that day one task to do. And he was like, no, this is literally impossible. There's not enough of anything to work with here. And they were like, oh, you need more? And it took them, at Square, it took them until like, FF10 they were doing much better by, but FF10 still had limitations like cutscene pacing to work with. FF8 had lost source code, FF7, FF9, FF10, Kingdom Hearts 1, Final Fantasy Tactics, Chocobo Mystery Dungeon, all lost source code.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking companies, unfortunately, that weirdly enough, I was actually talking about this the other day as an aside. Capcom are like really weird about game preservation, because I'm not sure if you're aware, Requiem like completely embraces the remake timeline now, so that is now official canon.
Mm-hmm. But you can still play all of the originals.
Yes, but I'm not sure if you saw that like conversation. Like GOG had a whole video where they talked about how hard it was to convince Capcom to part ways with RE1, 2, and 3 source code.
Yeah, just like the higher ups of it.
Right. It's like, we just want to save this. It's all about preservation. We don't have any other intention. And Capcom was like, I don't know. But like at the same time, I'd rather them be so like keeping it so close to the hip as opposed to like the Konami situation where it's like, guys, we just don't have it. We do not know where it is.
Yeah, Capcom has, like, despite what they said there, because that's so weird, they set the precedent for, like, the highest standard. Like, with all their fighting game collections, too. Like, they've done the best in making their old catalog so accessible. To where, like, it's not just, like, CVS2, and I talk about that collection a lot. CVS2, Power Stone 1 and 2, you can play them with rollback right now, and having all that preserved is so cool.
Preserved in the craziest, like, netcode too. Like, that's the part is they could have just as easily not given a shit about the netcode, but they straight up were like, no, we want people to keep playing this into their old age at this point.
Which is, those collections are in MT framework as well, so they have rollback functioning in that old netcode.
What a
also, going back to engines like that, that's not something Western devs can do. But anyway.
Yep.
So, I'm looking through the other features here for Shinra Archeology Cut. There's been some of it here.
Because it is a beta restoration mod too, right? On top of everything.
Yeah, not even that. It's just cut content in general and several restored custom events. But it is, at its core, it's a retranslation. If you want to play with just the retranslation, you can. And that is what I would recommend. But it is... I'm such a fan of it because the team behind it very clearly cares about FF7 and even has an interest in the current continuity and trying to make it clear of, like, if you play this version of FF7 with their mod, it will at the very least make things more palatable going to the remake trilogy. But it is also, at a general basis, reads significantly better. And it is a way better approach to it. But there is a version of the mod, and also the retranslation itself, the core retranslation, is also a PS1 mod. So if I really did want my 15 FPS battles with 60 FPS menus on PS1, and wanted the game to look sharper than this, I could play it on PS1 using the mod still too. But it does restore a number of cut events. One of the ones in that we saw so far was right before walking into the reactor. They paused to just talk again. Instead, in the final release, they just run straight into the reactor. And that's kind of gonna be a theme among the cut content and the cut moments, is things that speed up the gameplay. But let me get into the other features too. You'll notice the mouths are restored. If people don't know, the mouths in FF7 were a removed feature from the original release. They're not in the PS1 version, but they were in the data. And it was actually part of a whole facial expression system. And that whole facial expression system's been recreated in this mod too. And when you think of that, it makes sense, because that's like with FF6, and trying to do these 3D models that are reminiscent of like Final Fantasy VI in the older games. That's something that's lacking between them, is the facial expressions. Higher quality sound effects, music fixes, because one of the big issues with the PC version is a lot of music issues. We saw in the beginning of the game there was beta text during the opening that was... What does it say? Well, the final game opens on empty Starfield. Beta footage seen of FF7 International's 4th disc and the sampler disc demo both feature some expositionary text during this time, and that is an option. There's alternate FMV for the ending. There was a pre-beta FMV for Seto that had a different version used in the IDOTS release that can be restored. When they did FF7 in North America and they added the fights and expanded on the weapons, there's a earlier version of there's a Japanese original FMV for when Diamond Weapon shows up. It's when all the weapons show up that cutscene is longer in the North American version. It's like if you for whatever reason you wanted the Japanese original, that's there. And it goes even further than that. The Japanese original encounter rate is here, The Japanese original final boss is an option. Multi-link slots, that's just a quality of life thing, I think. Controller icons are here, and then more options for like sampler disc beta options. The Japanese original backgrounds, because there were a few pre-rendered backgrounds in the game that were changed overseas. The most easy example here is literally this one here of the gold saucer sign was removed. Or it was not there in the original, so they put the gold saucer sign there. So it's the depth of the archaeology cut is absurd. And then it just keeps going. Like this restoring these bug fixes like here, right? Of in the IDOS version, a bug where during a serious moment, Vincent starts dancing. And if you want it, you can make him start dancing again during a serious moment. So it is an absurd, and also retains some special moments.
Yes.
It is absurd. Now I pre-recorded all this footage right here, just so we could yap and get this all out of the way, and then we could focus on the game from here on out. But
right.
that's why I did that, is so we could just focus on it there. Analog movement, yes. Seventh Heavens, I talked about that at the beginning. Yeah, Seventh Heaven mod itself introduces that real, genuine analog movement.
This part right here, I think, is it's interesting in a lot of ways, because it kind of feels necessary and completely unnecessary at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you this: the idea that the leader of Avalanche is assassinated. That is probably one of the only things outside of like the rest of the stuff that they were posting that I would say absolutely changes the entire idea of what Avalanche is.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, I think everybody had the same problem where we all just thought that like these were the guys, like these were the fringe dudes that were just, all
right.
the organization was simply the crew that we see in the game. And then the implication that Avalanche was part of a much larger entity was never really talked about, at least in the OG translation, because of obvious issues and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see how many times in this game they talk about Avalanche as being largely a huge organization as in comparison to what we thought before.
Right. And a lot of it is a lot of it brings home that these were all these are not like concepts that didn't exist until later compilation stuff. It was just more things that were cut from the original that they thought about. But one of my favorite things about FF7, and I think what holds its legacy, is how strong a pacing this game has. Especially after, in FF7, after you get out of Midgar, you're just place to place to place to place to place. It doesn't slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even in Midgar now, I'm respecting how fast it moves, because it could have moved slower like it is here. But it shit, blanking on it. God, this widescreen looks sick.
I think that's the one thing that I'm always going to be a little apprehensive on, is how awkward the interpretation of Loveless is between the entirety of the anthology.
Mm-hmm.
Because like
that's another thing to look out for. Yeah
like it's just like between Genesis's recalling of it as being this thing that is like ancient and no one really talks about or says, to it being a full-on like Golden Saucer production that kind of doesn't like go into. I think they pretty much rewrote what it's supposed to be about, because like in Crisis Core, Minerva shows up, like not only physically but also like in the story of Loveless, and like the goddess Minerva is a very big talking point in the OG, or I'm sorry, in Crisis Core. So I'm wondering if Minerva's going to show up, or I've always had. I think I've talked to Austin about this, where I've been like, you know, what if Aerith just becomes the embodiment of Minerva as she's in the stream now, and that's like the end game of what we're going toward to remake Part 3. I don't know if you've seen the craziness happening over in Ever Crisis, but it is
a little bit, but it's a
lot.
It feels like important material at this point.
Yeah, I think we have eclipsed far past the notion of, unfortunately, Ever Crisis is just a little game that we can't. Oh, also, yes, I forgot the uncensored dialogue too.
Right.
So
yeah,
the cursing was 100% at least translated well.
Yeah, and what I read was, I mean, in some material, it was like Barrett is to a degree accurate, but it did hit like in an interview. I think it was Nojima and Nomura talking about it, where they had gotten the feedback from players that Barrett was written over the top, but to a degree, he is supposed to be like that, just not to the he's hand up higher than he was supposed to be.
He's not supposed to be a stereotype,
right?
And unfortunately, in the OG translation, he is very much a huge stereotype. And over the years, Square Enix has done a much better job at, I wouldn't say retranslating, but that's kind of what they've been doing, because the actual script that's available right now on like the most recent version unmodded is still very different from the OG in a lot of ways. So it's just been a really weird journey with this game, to be honest, like in terms of localization.
I remembered what I was going to talk about earlier was like how even for there's a lot more moments where you're talking with Jessie. That is something that was just cut from the original, was more interactions with Jessie.
Oh, okay, so that's actually an indication that she was actually into him as opposed to not.
Yeah, and if you were picking up on how the game makes you like pick between characters, pick between Aerith and Tifa, like Jessie has the exact same like dialogue options there that make it seem like she's part of that counter too.
Okay.
Which obviously they cut because it doesn't go anywhere. It's like, do you want to balance giving the player an intentional false expectation? Like, do they need that? Do they need to worry about that? Or is it too much to already understand? A big similarity to like all the things that this reminds me of is the original cut of Star Wars. I don't know if you've ever seen the video on it.
No.
The very original first cut of Star Wars that was in private screenings, and was only to like George Lucas's close friends. They all hated it. That I forget how long the battle models. It used the opening crawl for the original copy of Star Wars was way longer, and it went into all sorts of world details that just did not matter. And then I don't even think it opened on Luke either, but it opened on there was a scene where it opened on Luke, then it cuts to the actual start of the film, and then it comes back to Luke, and it's so disjointed and it's so overpacking you with information right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And that's what this reminds me of, is trying to balance how much information you bombard the player with, even though everything in your world is fleshly written out. And it's become evident now that they did in fact like flesh out a lot of what this game and this world was going to be, but they just ended up cutting it for the sake of pacing, for the sake of better pacing. Because I would have to argue it's even I think it's a strength to the original game over the remake trilogy, because those games are delving into the weeds very in depth that the original didn't do, and that's what gives like a strength to the original over the remake trilogy. I feel is This game is just, again, its pacing is just place to place to place to place.
Yeah, but I also feel like there's some stuff that gets removed from that, like we're speaking of the Jesse thing, right? Like, like I just think you know, the relationship that would have been built with Avalanche as a whole is easily one of the biggest missing elements of the original that we talked about where it was like, oh man, I can't play remake and actually see these guys have some character. But just from this like small little bit alone, you can already tell that they are so much more than just NPCs set up to die.
Yeah,
which is, I think, the biggest unfortunate problem with the OG.
Yeah, because like looking at this, like through the Shinra cut, it's pretty obvious that they did fully intend them to be full of much more going on with them.
Right.
Like that's part of the facial expressions right there on Big.
Yeah, I'm seeing it all over the place because I see that like Wedge has more kinder eyes, which totally fits with his character. Wedge. Well, it also looks like they fixed those animations too because they seem to be they were a little bit more abrupt in the OG. I felt like I don't know. It just seems like maybe the facial animations helped there.
Yeah.
That's actually great. That's another thing too. Is like that. Man, this is it's so weird because as I don't want to. Once again, I hate localization discourse, but man, if there was a fucking example of who so much that was left on the cutting room floor. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, this is like so much left on the cutting room floor that, and it is a point of like how much does it add and did it strike a balance? And it's like it's at least cool to see how much more integrated, just these dudes were, you know.
Yeah.
That was the other example. So there was the Star Wars thing. I think that was like one of the important things is that just they are fleshed out so much more, even though it's inconsequential.
I mean, I guess inconsequential in terms of like the literal storyline, but I think if we're being honest, obviously one of the biggest themes of this game is dealing with death, you know? And to have like what feels like a party kind of, you know, like the idea that you're sitting there and you're like, oh, okay, like these are some very, very strong NPCs that you're spending a lot of time with, and you see them throughout your journey quite a bit. And then for them to just suddenly, like, 3 characters to die at a very pivotal moment.
And a lot of people in there. Yeah, I was going to say, like, that's how I felt is, like, did all of that have a meaningful impact to the original without the exposition? And...
No, I don't think so. Personally, I've always seen, and that's the thing, is that the joke was always that these 3 were throwaway characters.
Right.
For a very long time.
But they weren't supposed to be.
They weren't supposed to be,
But they cut back so much on it that you would think they were. So that's where, like... but I mean, at the very least, you do get that in Remake. They're plenty. They're more than that in Remake, but still.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one could argue they're literally part of the main cast a little bit at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Damn it! I keep coming to ideas and then moving so fast through them.
No, well, you know, that's the pacing of FF7. And that's the thing is that I'm seeing too is that like, even with all the new additions and stuff like that. So here's a moment that isn't cut from the OG because you can talk to all 3 of them and go into conversations about it. Yeah, see? That was not... That whole conversation was
she didn't phrase it like
different.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also part of the original.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, how Jesse phrased that was not, oh yeah, we need to walk out and sit on the table. There we go.
I think probably the biggest mistake of Remake is not seeing the pinball room. That fucking sucks.
Yeah, there was something in the original that changes in the table in here. I don't know if the Archeology cut restored it. It's how the TV looks. It wasn't like an in-game model, dude, on the TV report. Yeah, no, that's not... In the Japanese original, that's not how it looks, apparently. Guess I'll find out about it later.
She looks like an anteater.
Wedge too uptight? No. That's also like part of original. Yeah, that's still part of original.
It's part of the original, but it's given a little bit more context, I think, because she kind of just...
And it's just written better.
Seems more... Yeah, it's written better. She seems more confused in the OG, and in this one, she's definitely lamenting it a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. Which is some characterization, they get it.
Yeah.
They need to recenter that. That's a change I'm surprised hasn't been done yet. Is making sure he throws him at the center of the camera. But anyway. Yeah, there was
Cloud in his 5'7" ass.
There was still another important point. To wait for it to come back to me. But I mean, we'll get to see a couple more moments here too.
Did that sign always say Texas? Am I crazy?
I think it did.
That's nutty.
Yeah.
You know, the great places, Medill and Junon and and Wutai and the good old continent of Texas. That's a lot more gil, I thought. Is it not?
I think that's how much it was.
Okay. Also, it wasn't a physical item, I believe. It was he just kind of threw it at you in the OG.
Yeah, yeah, and then also this was inside. This is pretty rearranged.
Yeah. What's going on over there?
I guess that's how Johnny knows. Otherwise, like, you don't have to explain how Johnny knows about them. Because Johnny questions or calls Cloud childhood best friend later. And it's like, how does he know? But yeah, I mean, you could just assume he heard it.
That's the thing is, right, so that's one of those things where, because you said that they were trying to take in the modern day continuity as well. Is that more something that was in the OG? Is that Johnny had more prevalent presence? Or?
That's how it was in the OG. The more continuity has to do with the terminology. You know, like Midgarsimer is probably going to be what it's called. Things like that.
As much as I will miss the Midgarzolum.
Yeah. I did like that. Yeah, no, there was a bunch of retranslation, I think, from the European version. Or to the IDOS version was when they did the PC IDOS version, they were like, we had time to revise some grammar, but we couldn't get to everything. There was no money to just revise the whole script. Yeah, the way the original game was programmed and the way they had to localize it, they did not have spell check for English.
That's crazy.
Which is a big, explains a few things. They literally did not have spell check in English. Because it was more programming based on Japanese text. So, like, also, all the text, how it was spelled out in the files was all spaced out, too. You couldn't just write a normal line. You had to have it all spaced, but you had to have a space between each letter.
That's different too. The intermingling of the present and the past.
Right.
That's a really cool addition. I didn't think that was. Man, there was a lot just gone.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, it's but I mean, that is... No, I guess it was really just talking about the balance, because, yeah, there's a... trying to find the fine line of balance between having too much and having the bare minimum of what you need. And games really
Right.
didn't do this degree of it until this point. Like,
Mhm.
it's kind of crazy
Well,
that
I
they're
mean-
going this hard on it.
Yeah, like I mean, it's so FF7 is still. I would say FF7 Metal Gear are the two games that I look at where it's like they quite literally changed what it meant for video game storytelling.
I think
even with all of its faults, you know.
I think this is also explaining how Nojima's writing comes across in every other project he's involved in, which is still the rest of the compilation, FF8, FF10, FF13. The hands of this team still in those other games, and what separate? It's the same people. Why is there so much different animosity for the rest of the things? And it might have been like this level of cutting, but that's to a degree. That's not like a bare bones explanation. That's an open-ended explanation. And it's not even about like reining the writers in. It's about what do they have to cut and what is too far. Like,
Wow, this is
even in
really early.
Kingdom Hearts too.
What the hell?
Yeah. Oh, the other thing, you know how, have you seen the video about Zack and how absurdly late of an addition Zack was to the game? Like, plot-wise, the better plot twist of FF7, and Zack was so absurdly, like, last minute put into the game.
Which is crazy because, like, that plot twist does not feel like something you can just fucking
come up
just
with on the
fucking
spot.
put in on the spot.
Yeah,
because the whole game is building up towards it, and then they go, nah, we just. That's like a friend of yours that says a joke, and you go, that was entirely too smart for you to do on the spot. Fuck you.
Yeah,
that was nuts.
I think it was. I mean, Nomura did the design, and then they came up with a. I think they had Nomura redo it. I can't remember, but it was like this was the start where Nomura was still character artist who just pitched in a couple ideas. And in some cases he reined in others. I remember hearing about this before, but I was reading about it where this is an interesting one. I think I remember reading about this moment too. But on the return. Oh, you can't show Sephiroth like that. That's not cool. Wow. Now, see, it's supposed to make an impact when you originally see Sephiroth. So this is something I can see, like, an interest in changing.
Right.
You know what it is? When you do storytelling, there is a degree of, like, when you already know the answers as the writer yourself, you already know how everything's going to conclude and how everything goes. And then you're trying to put in these elements early on, but then through QA, it could be literally just through QA, you find out, because QA isn't just like mechanically gameplay wise. QA can be on localization and how information's given to the player in story wise too. Yeah, where you're like, you don't want to bombard them with too much, and maybe it would make more of an impact if the reveal of what Sephiroth looks like is during Calm, like it is in the final game.
Yeah, but here's also the other thing too that I would argue against that. So this particular part seems so like the whole implication of what's happening and just the idea of so we talk a lot about this with the OG translation or just the OG way that the game goes through. So I guess this is where this materia tutorial is done. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, with Tifa instead of Barrett.
But you know how so when you get out of Midgard, there's a lot of an implication of like, so what fucking Sephiroth did this, or what the hell? And then Cloud kind of turns around and is like, all right, I'm going after Sephiroth. And everyone's just like, oh, okay, I guess we're coming with you. And that feels so unearned, weirdly enough, in my opinion. Because it's just like, okay, so he killed the president, and we're leaving now. Why are we going after Sephiroth? It seems like he's... And there's this implication that, like, Cloud kind of always has, and it's weird because it's still, like, an idea of respect as he's still talking about him throughout, like, it's like, anytime Sephiroth is brought up in the OG before he's there, before the calm incident is, the Blime incident is, described.
Yeah.
He just kind of has, like, a kind of, like, forlorn, like, which could mean anything. And then he turns around and goes, okay, I want to go after Sephiroth. It's important we go after Sephiroth. And everyone's just on board. And I've always kind of disliked that. So, like, maybe not this much into the weeds, but I kind of like the idea that on some level, Cloud is very much establishing that he not only remembers what happened, but is very upset about it.
Yeah.
And wants to do something about it. So when that problem happens, I don't think that scene should have been the thing where you should have seen him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe an implication with like the Masamune would probably have been a lot more cooler, or just like little bits and pieces of the Nibelheim incident. Because outright showing him, I think I agree, is like the whole point, right? Like, do not show him until he's Jaws. He's literally fucking Jaws. So showing him outright is a little weird, but I kind of also don't mind how they did that there. But I still think it's better that they didn't do this whole bit right here, because this does seem to be a bit much.
Right. Oh, they didn't even go to sleep yet.
Right. No.
Back during the original game, when they go back to Midgar in Disc 3, and they're all parachuting in, it was, I think, Nojima and Katase wanted the whole party to die except the 3 characters you brought in.
Right, which was
and Nojima was like, guys, what are you doing? If you're doing that, you're underselling the importance of Aerith's death.
I think Nomura, right?
Yeah,
Nomura was the one that
Nomura reined them in.
Yeah. And it's always funny thinking about that. The amount of flack that Nomura catches just because he made Kingdom Hearts, like, it's insane to me. I'll tell you what, though. I kind of like the fact that the materia tutorials handled elsewhere. Because I kind of always hated the fact that Barret is literally an obstacle. Like, oh, I got to do the whole fucking tutorial.
That's true,
Get out of the way.
I don't think they wanted you to feel bad if you skipped it, because then you're leaving Tifa without knowledge, and that doesn't feel like something Cloud would have done. Placement for the models. Yeah, there's some of those. I'm not big on those, but those are options.
Yeah,
Damn it.
I was talking to Austin about it before the stream. There is one like that. There's a mod that does a really good job at kind of like creating stylized versions of those character models that looks good. And it's like the entire game too, which is really good. But I think removing the chibi stuff, like, honestly spits in the face of a good portion of the reason why, like, FF7 is so loved too, because like there's a wackiness to it, you know, like FF7 isn't just this like super hardcore serious game, and like look at that, like little moments like this are you know, they're great.
Because this is Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
This is still shit Final Fantasy would do. And it's still like, this is like the one thing you have that, like, well, there's a lot of elements of Final Fantasy VII's fun that still remain. But this makes it feel like a smoother transition into it.
I think the problem that people have is that seeing the current remake guys go through and do... Oh, they call it Magnify in this one.
Yeah.
As opposed to all. Okay. Does it use the modern day materia names? Yeah, I guess.
It should, right? Yeah, because it is Magnify.
Yeah, Magnify is all.
Yeah, so that's like another part of that consistency thing. That's what it means.
What was I gonna say? Oh, fuck. Completely forgot. Now I'm doing it.
Well, here's some parts coming up that are added. That are... I was talking about, like, understand why maybe some of them get cut. But at the same time, also why they're there in the first place. Because, yeah, the writing is more deliberate than you would think it is based on both what's left in the final build and also the localization.
Yeah.
Anyway, Johnny has to announce that he's leaving too.
That huge-ass text box for a let's go.
These guys here talk about Loveless. No slurs. But something like this was in the original anyway. It's just more detailed what they're talking about with Loveless.
I like how those guys were rewritten. And the remake is very fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You read about this before, where they're trying to merge like we do. Let's see how things go.
Yeah, that's... wow.
But yeah, I want to read more on what Archeology cut adds, because I mean...
And then they get surprised at the...
Yeah, they're like, how'd they do that? Because, yeah, that's something about...
So
there's
good.
a number of these scenes I remember reading about all the time before, like them trying to go into each other, like we do.
Oh, look at Wedge. This guy, too, it was always... his eyes were always just open every time he did that, which is always so weird.
Mm-hmm. Gulp. Yikes.
That was always so confusing because I think they still fucked up the model there because he's pointing his arm at the guy
Yeah.
and not the gun.
Yeah, if you need to get going, I gotta, at least one more important moment worth seeing
Sure.
to really, like, drive home the point of everything we've seen here.
Sounds good.
It's, right when we jump off.
This, you know what this feels like? This feels like the Mandela effective version of fucking FF7. It's like, no, it was always like this. What do you mean? What do you mean, dog? I guess the other thing I'm noticing too is that Tifa's a lot more playful in this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which they do... There is a whole entire point of Tifa and Aerith retain their characters and are more of the opposite of the tropes you would expect them to be.
Right.
And so far, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to see how Aerith is in this too. Also, there was a moment. Well, maybe it's later. But there's a moment where Tifa and Barrett were arguing, and it's things like that where they feel like really out of character. Yeah, Barrett was questioning why Tifa came along.
Yeah.
And he was straight up like, "Why are you even here? Can you even fight?" Which just, at least for how, like, Tifa responded, it didn't feel like
Right.
in character in the same way.
That was weird, yeah.
But I mean, it's in the writing process, in the cutting room floor process, that's kind of how it always goes. But getting remnants of how much there is here is interesting. Even if some of it has to take creative liberties. I don't know how much of it takes creative liberties.
That's the other question I have too, is like, okay, so how much of this is a situation in which the scene is different because they didn't have access to the resources?
Right. Yeah, because like, if something like the Avalanche Party trying to merge into each other was talked about in the same way, then we probably would have seen the gameplay of that ages ago. But then I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have to read more. I just delved into this mod, and then it was like, there's a lot going on here, so I want to look into it more, and all of it's on the Shinra Archeology cut website, too, to read about. I'm probably going to end up reading more on that this way, because it's just really interesting to me how many changes are. This is the last big change. Is when, we jump off first.
Oh, there's a facial expression.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot in the dialogue the same way. But yeah, my person, like, for a first-time player, I don't know if they want to go in with the full cut, but at the very least, the retranslation is always optional and completely separate if you just want the retranslation itself without all the extra restored content either.
Right.
And it's a mod for PS1 version as well. Huge props for that.
They changed the implication of that, why he stays there behind.
Yeah.
Ah,
look at that, Barrett smiling. I mean, you get plenty of moments like this in Remake, with how much he shows love to these three.
Yeah.
Take it to Cosmo Canyon.
Barrett, you are very far away from them at this point.
But it's this little glimpse of Cosmo Canyon and what it almost meant to Barrett too, going there.
Yeah.
But also that's the friendliest he's perceived at all in this, and it's with them. And it's promising a vacation after all of this, which does not get to happen.
That's what I think is like a lot. I think the OG doesn't do a very good job. They convey Barrett's anger, but not his love, which is like, honestly, what makes him arguably the best character in all of Final Fantasy VII. Like I think he is like, in terms of like the theming and like what like everything is trying to do in this game. Oh yeah, press R1, L1.
I mean, I could.
No. Do you not know that? There you go. Yeah.
What was this thing in the original? I mean, all the camera spinning too, I think, was added, but
no, camera spinning is added. No, but in like that's how you stop back attacks from happening. Is you just press L1 R1 to like run for a second, and you immediately come back.
I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah.
L2 and R2 are doing this, and then right analog stick.
This game is being made as we play it. It's just but yeah, no, like I think that like the most consequential. It's so weird considering that, like, yeah, I get like the whole like we love Cloud and everything like that. But the most consequential character and the one I think has the most going on for them in terms of just the theming, the writing, and who they're supposed to be. And, like, the person that gets affected the most is Barrett. And, like, you know what? I'll say this. For not having too many black characters, whenever fucking FF introduces one, they knock it out of the fucking park. Like, between him and Saz, like, they are both...
Saz, yeah.
Like, they're both highlights in each of their respective games. And it's just that, like, in the OG, you see kind of more like a sadness to Barrett more than anything, right? As opposed to, like, that kind of, like the whole point of Barrett's character is that he is, while he's mad, like, he's justifiably angry, but he isn't this fucking, you know, angry, like, super macho machismo bullshit guy.
Right.
He's a dude who's in love with the he has a love for the planet. He has a love for people.
To a fault.
To a fault, right? Like, it is very much like he's just a big teddy bear. And the fact that he is also the leader of this organization that is quite literally doing crimes.
Right.
Shows just how far he was pushed. And he's just like he's easily one of the, like, a fucking best characters. And, like, Remake and Rebirth percent help with that for sure.
Reflecting on it, like, I don't go too much into it. I still feel like the dying stuff could have been handled better in Rebirth.
Yeah.
Given more time, space around it, but I guess that's not necessarily something they can't correct later either.
Well, here's the thing, is that there's a whole implication behind his character that there was something else going on.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't hear about that at all in Rebirth. And that is one of the biggest plot holes. It's like, okay, not only is Dine completely and utterly, like, not himself, but he was also experimented on, potentially by Hojo. Why? Like, what's going on there? And like, we don't get any indication as to that. We're gonna have to probably learn about it later on in part 3, or at the very least, I hope that they talk about it, because it literally doesn't make sense.
It's gonna be a long game, so I have to imagine they will.
Yeah. Which they're being pretty haha tee-hee about it. I don't know if you've been seeing them. They're very much of the mindset that they seem pretty
confident,
pretty convinced that they're going to release the game very soon.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I was gonna say in terms of Barrett was, it sounded in the interviews, it sounded like Nomura, Nojima got the most, like, because he was literally the writer. Most of the feedback and criticism went to him. They, like, as in the people responsible at Square giving him the feedback, he picked up on it, and he's said, like, he's reflected on that. So, you know, the point was to hear back about Barrett so he can reflect on it and impact how they go forward. And then when Nomura talked about it, Nomura's concern was about localization, which was still at the point of, we need to be more involved in our localizations going forward.
Yeah.
So in all fronts, it's the point is the feedback goes somewhere positive.
Once again, I keep saying that Nomura's the GOAT, and is probably the only voice of reason in the room at all times. It's like, without Sakaguchi there, because I feel like Sakaguchi has always, like, had just a grounded approach to not only development but storytelling as well. And you can see that happen in, like, I mean, something like Lost Odyssey, right? Which to me to this day is, like, still one of the most just grounded kind of JRPG storytelling that I've seen in a very long time. And a lot of that just comes from, like, Sakaguchi's understanding of the human condition, you know what I mean? So it's just like, Nojima and Katase are very much, like, I hate to say it, they're, like, very Chunibyo, you know what I mean? Like, they very much enjoy, yeah, they very much, like, enjoy, like, the very silly, like, now what if there was ghosts? And Nomura's like...
Well, Katase has a film background, actually.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense why you want to go for the more spectacle thing of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like the spectacle that Final Fantasy started being known about. Yeah, that's a Katase thing. Monty is showing off. I talked about him at the beginning, and they're in the description. 60 FPS widescreen. A big retranslation project that also has some custom content and restored cut content and beta content.
Well, it looks like I can stay a little longer because I guess they're... Oh, this is a little different too, right, I think?
Yeah.
They're just going to send me food.
Oh, okay.
Because I completely forgot. I was out like a light all day. My fucking sleep schedule, man, has been so fucked.
Yeah, same. Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter.
I guess we'll get to see Aerith. Yeah, and I never thought we would get a good widescreen patch like this. I never thought we would get good, like, 60 FPS like this either for the field.
Yeah.
But this is great. It is the, I would still prefer if the battle frame rate was 15 for animations, but still 60 for the menus like it is in the original. But the animations are all reinterpolated to 60, and it doesn't look that bad. It's fine. Yeah, for the like, I could play through the whole game just like this. Yeah, for anyone first time playing, and it'll be the point of, like, the poor review is, like, all the cut content and the beta content and whatever custom content there is all optional. You don't have to do that. You could just have the translation itself. And and what I want to definitely see and continue playing through. I'm gonna play more of this, like, on my Twitch channel. If chat wants to see me continue this, I'm gonna play more of this with the beta content disabled and just going through and reading through the retranslation on my own over time when I stream on Twitch. But that'll be the point, is so I can talk about it in the updated port review, which I've got a lot of headway on. I got the whole script for it essentially redone. There are things I want to check back in the original video, but it's actually kind of hard for me to rewatch that original video. A lot of annoyances I have with it now, hence why interest in redoing it.
Ain't that the truth? Hey, listen, at least you're not me, and one of your biggest videos on your platform is being very wrong about Silent Hill 2 Remake. So.
Yeah, it's like...
Hey, I've had a follow-up.
Like, there's a reason... Like, there's a reason the original port review has, like, 1 million views. Like, there has to be, even if I don't see it right now. It did that for a reason. But I'm interested in seeing how well it would do with how well I can research everything and get gameplay of things now. And how much less I have to rely on other people's footage was a big thing, too. Because I ordered a copy of the original PS1 Japanese version as well. So I can... international. I got a copy of FF7 International. So I'll be able to get footage, real hardware footage of the sample disc that comes with it, the disc 4. And take a look at it what's more carefully.
You know what? One thing I've always... Like, I don't normally do collectibles or anything like that, but I think if there's one thing that I would 100% do is I would love to have and, like, just frame the OG demo disc of FF7 that had, like, different graphics. Aerith was there, like, but it's the bombing mission. So it's just, like, weird that Aerith is just sitting there with you. It was really cool. I remember that demo, like, very fondly. I would before I ever got my hands on FF7, that's the one game that I was hearing about, because, you know, Tech TV and all that shit would talk about it, like, nonstop and be like, oh, this is so cool. And then I saw the Toonami review back in the day, which was crazy. So, man. Oh, yeah.
A lot better than when I streamed it earlier when the updated PC version came out. I was there for a couple minutes. Oh, we talked about what is it? RE1, 2, and 3 were on Steam. They also put Breath of Fire's GOG version on Steam as well.
Yep. Well, so RE1, 2, and 3, so that's the thing, is that on Steam, they unfortunately have DRM now, which is, like, kind of counterintuitive to what the whole point of the fucking preservation was with GOG.
Right.
So I still say that, unfortunately, GOG is the best way to go with.
Yeah. It's like, if you want them without the DRM anyway, you could get them on GOG. Because they've been available there. They put that effort in to make sure they got them. Same with Breath of Fire.
Oh, so you cycle like 10 saves. I only cycle between 3 in every game I play.
I have to archive all my saves, so I cycle everything I can.
Oh yeah, because I get it now. Because you maybe want to go re-record a moment.
Right, or yeah, have moments to go back to and research.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very least, usually if I'm talking with any communities, I feel like there's like a speedrunning community or modding community, I at least have something I want to offer for like how much they get to hand me because they document and all their research so fucking well. So I like to have something like my own save files archived and worth sharing with them if they need something like that, and if it would be helpful to them. You know, like what can I help contribute to a modding scene that's just like has all this information documented.
Absolutely.
But yeah, usually it's just like for safety when approaching a video. And certainly it saves time every time anyway.
I will say, it is a little weird. I guess maybe the cut where he is talking about like Sephiroth earlier, and you could tell that there's like an anger there. But here, I like with that not being brought up, the fear element still is like very much more executed well. I think where, he's like clearly like not happy hearing the name Sephiroth from fucking Mr. Shinra over here.
Mm-hmm.
So that I will say that like if that kind of does ruin it a little bit. So maybe if that conversation would be put after this moment at some point, but of course, meeting everybody after this moment is a big thing. So it does kind of feel like I now that I see that, I kind of agree that maybe cutting that mention of it was good. But at the same time, I just wish that there was more of an indication by Cloud. Not like outright, because still like the whole getting to calm and explaining Nibelheim is very important.
Mm-hmm.
But like I do wish there was at least a little bit of indication of, like, okay, Cloud, why are you so like bent out of shape? Like something happened, I don't want to talk about it. Like something like that, you know?
Right. But they don't want to show like I mean, they could not show any facade, any sign of his facade, but at the same time, like everybody already, at least in Remake, they read it right away because everyone already knows, or at least they almost expect the player to know. Like he's just trying to act cool. Like there's no reason to try to hide it.
Yeah, I just think there's also just doing something different inherently with his character, and that's
true too.
You know, a lot of the OG, at least in the translation, Sephiroth kind of doesn't give a shit about any one of the OG cast, and they are completely inconsequential to his plan as well. If anything, Cloud is more just like a puppet to him, which makes the whole like interaction so much more worse, because like he meant something to Cloud. He really did. Like Cloud looked up to him, and to be seen as nothing more than a pawn for his fucking plan obviously feeds into the whole, you know, fucking catatonic stage thing that he was going through for a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously in the remake trilogy, there's something that this version of Cloud is doing or is that Sephiroth 100% needs.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious. Have you seen, like, I know we just talked about it earlier. Did you actually see what the latest Ever Crisis nonsense was?
I probably did, but it's not fresh on my mind.
So it's Aerith going through the timeline to fight a weapon. So she happens upon. There is a moment where the Ever Crisis party with Glenn meets up with her, and then they meet up with fucking Zack and Angeal,
Mhm.
and then they meet up with the OG cast. So it's Zack and Angeal, OG cast, and then the Glenn party, all fighting together against the new weapon inside of the timeline and to kill it. And they succeed, and then Sephiroth goes, haha, that was according to my plan, and then he fucks off. And I'm just like, but I think the interesting thing, which leads into what I was talking about with what I think that the fucking third title is going to be. Apparently, I felt this. They are doing a lot of like explaining or maybe giving Sephiroth far more redeeming quality. In Ever Crisis. So there's a very big theory that like Sephiroth might just straight up come from a different timeline to beat his own ass.
Mhm. There is a
Which at this point we're like the shark has fucking clearly been jumped over and it's fine, you know?
right. It is, though it would still, if it is as it is original, it's fine to have to make this villain more tragic.
Right.
Is that storytelling wise that's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes it is just like they're elaborating on something more to make it more emotionally relatable because it'll be relevant, but not all the time. They did that with Yakuza and Mine, and unfortunately they went that route that I don't think they should have gone. But it'll depend if they'll use it to just sell like I guess tragedy, but tragedy doesn't even begin it with Sephiroth. It's all with Sephiroth is like psychological. A lot of it is psychological.
Well, you know, the big to do is the fact that like a lot of we talked about this before, where a lot of the FF7 OG's implication of its ending is that there really is no clear definitive answer as to whether or not the white material was able to stop Meteor enough in time to preserve the rest of the planet, although Red is still alive. So that is like the one thing that we're kind of given information on. And that's just from the OG alone. And then as the anthology kind of carries on and we see the state of the children and we hear about it storylines, and we start to see, like, you know, I mean, Reeve with the W, like, you know, even Rufus trying to have his own kind of hand in sort of restoring the legacy of the Shinra generation. Simultaneously, Barrett is walking around and kind of getting people to sort of adopt, kind of go back to alternative forms of energy to make sure that we don't go back to Mako. But it's very much a dying world. Like, it's a world that's like left in, it's almost a little too late, you know? And a lot of it comes from the fact that maybe Meteor did impact the world so hard that there's nothing for it to come back. So maybe what it is you know, stopping Sephiroth, but more so just actively making it so that Meteor does it, or the white material does its job to stop Meteor from just doing as much damage to Gaia as it did before. Because, like, clearly Sephiroth just constantly, no matter what, will always win, you know? And that's just, that kind of sucks. So I guess, like, what part 3 is going to try to answer or try to do is, like, okay, what if we just made it so that, like, at least Gaia's okay? And then everyone's still dead, and then now that there's going to be one unifying timeline, what can we save this planet, essentially?
For Final Fantasy, I could kind of see that. It's, you ever realize, like, all Final Fantasy games, like, Final Fantasy 16 ending was, I read about controversies. You know which other Final Fantasy had a controversy ending? 15? 13, 12, 11, like all
13,
of them.
12, all of them. I think 12 was probably the most, like, straightforward.
That was pretty straightforward, yeah. But, like, that's what this series does, 10. I was a little put off by 9s, even though that wasn't in the same way. But like, 1, literally everything you did is, like, erased from memory. There's always these extremely, like, tragic endings to these games. that end up
Right.
controversial, then it's like a repeating. It's a repeating cycle, even with the original FF7, like we said. So it
Listen,
just
I
wouldn't be
think the
like
biggest-
surprising.
I think the biggest kick in the dick will always be, in terms of FF10. After all those incredible boss fights, your final boss fight is a sentient spiritual tick. Like fuck off. Like, this is Yevon. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah. It bothers me more when it's like impacted by gameplay like that. Where it's like story-wise 15 and 16. Because those ones were so controversial at the time, but they're always tragic.
I just watched Night Skies Prince's video, who's got a lot of information. Like the whole problem that happened with the developers. And, you know,
For
I
which
will...
one? Oh, for 13.
For 13
versus 13,
into 15.
yeah.
And how it felt like. So I didn't know this, but like 15 was being written originally to still have the trilogy in mind. And like a year out from release. Oh wow, they still do the encounter right here. That is
Yeah.
A year out from release, it was like a year or two. Square Enix turns around and says, "We're only making one Final Fantasy 15, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing this fucking trilogy again." And that made it so that everyone on the team was like, "Wait a minute, what? What do you mean? Like, we don't have any of the things that you were talking about," which is why the story feels so disjointed, because they were going to still go with Nomura's original vision of it being a 3-game affair. So a lot of what was like shown off, like the whole Leviathan fight and how it was like it paled against and it was shown, the reasoning behind that was because whoever the CEO at the time just wasn't very
Very what?
very good at his job.
Right.
So like the new CEO showed up and essentially, I think that's the only reason why you see things like 16 releasing in the state that it did, where for the most part they showed and told the story they wanted to tell with all the DLCs that came out for it. Why the FF7 remake trilogy has been moving along so well.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've got more of a focused vision as to what they want it to be. But I'm
true.
now very curious to see what FF17 is going to be now. Now in a post-Claire Obscure world.
I would yeah, there was a whole lot of humbling that happened during the period right after FF12.
Yeah.
Up to 14 1.0, 13 and versus 13. A lot of humbling, and we've been out of there for a while. It's still like done reputation damage, but we've been out of that Square Enix for a while now. And they're significantly more grounded. I don't know how to explain Kingdom Hearts 4, but otherwise. But I mean, Nomura's working. He's just working on other shit.
I think it is an Insuno situation. I think that's
yeah?
what's going on. By the way, the facial expression 100% like made that scene much more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Like the weird laughing without the facial expression is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so like, you know, hint hint nudge nudge, right? Like, hey, you know what's crazy? There's this game that Itsuno-san wants to create where you can play with your friends and go on a journey across a big world to fight monsters, and it's called Dragon's Dogma. Except someone who is related to the head of the company in Capcom has a similar idea called Monster Hunter, and what franchise is more popular now?
Right.
All right, it's go make DMC2. All right, it's make DMC3. Okay, it's you want Dragon's Dogma? Fine, here's Dragon's Dogma, but you have to make DMC. Okay, fine, let's go make DMC5, and then you'll get Dragon's Dogma 2. Like,
okay, you got it now.
That's why. Yeah, like.
Yeah.
Between that and the, I think that, unfortunately, I think it's like Nomura is like Square Enix's, oh, let's see what we got here.
Pretty ill. Yeah. I left the option on.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, yeah,
think-
that's literally an option in the setup.
which is good. I love it.
Yep. So we're tying
But yeah,
that
no,
back to Nomura.
Yeah, I think Nomura is unfortunately, whether or not they want to believe so, I think in the same kind of vein that Kojima was for Konami, and then Itsuno for Capcom. There just seems Japanese companies seem to have this big problem where a lot of their auteurs and people that are genuinely, making the most sense because they're just not at a certain hierarchy or not given anywhere near
Right.
like credence that they're supposed to be, in my opinion.
It's because if they want
Which
to,
kind of sucks.
because if they want to go higher up, then they have to take a promotion that takes them out of development and puts them like on a board. And it was like Yoshi P was stepping down from that, right?
Yeah.
But like others have deliberately turned that down. It was the creator of Yakuza was put up on that board and he tanked out because it takes you away from the creative position.
Yeah.
The only promotion you get is leaving the creative position.
Which is stupid and definitely needs to be changed like immediately. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because even if they leave, you're gonna end up with a situation like with what was his name? Who made Yakuza? Who was director on it the whole time? Nagoshi, yeah, Nagoshi. Yeah. And then now it's all gone. So
yeah, that's such horse shit. I don't know why the fuck Tencent did that. That is such a fucking kick in the dick.
So
Gang of Dragon looks so fucking sick. I genuinely believe it. Like Gang of Dragon was going to be set up to be the next big blockbuster, and Tencent just doesn't fucking. I don't know what the fuck they're doing, bro.
Right. But it feels that way that like if Monster Hunter Stories is also filling a niche of being Capcom's AAA RPG, so it feels harder to hope for anything like Breath of Fire or Mega Man Star Force. There could be hope for Mega Man Star Force, but at the very least, like I don't think another Breath of Fire can happen because any AAA RPG devs are working on Monster Hunter Stories, and unfortunately, they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I've heard those games are good. So I'm very curious to see if there will be a new JRPG renaissance happening soon, because the fact that Konami is making a huge AAA JRPG in the form of Rev Noir is insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's crazy that Konami is stepping back into the JRPG game, because like they low-key Konami are kind of like consistently back in the day were consistently great. I mean the Suikoden games,
that's right, Suikoden, right?
Titles. So alongside a couple other ones. But yeah, no, I'm very curious to see. I think what will need to happen is we just need to, okay, we know that FF7 Part 2 is coming out like next year, 100%.
Right.
We need some kind of indication of where 17. So hopefully we get a trailer. I think it would be insane if Square Enix turns around and goes, "All right, here's the reveal for Part 3 at SGF," and then they go, "We got one more announcement," and then they finally drop FF17.
I would really like the remake and Rebirth team to handle 17. Especially after Rebirth, it's very clear that they could handle their own original everything for it.
I would too, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm almost positive 17 has been in development for a while now.
That's possible.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, because think of it this way. Yoshi P talked about how 2014 they were working on 16.
Mm-hmm.
Like 16 was in the pre-production phase in 2014, and he was on hand for that.
Oops.
So like, that's like 17 100%. When 16 was at least announced for release date, 17 is either like in full pre-production mode or it's just straight up being developed right now.
Yeah.
So we're going to get something. I don't know what team would work on it, but maybe we need. I think the answer is we just need more new blood. You know what I mean? Like we just need more.
I mean, I don't know if they're in the position to afford a whole new team. I guess it would have to be like the CBU2, who does... Well, I mean, they're working on that Elliot game right now, but Bravely Default devs.
Or maybe this is crazy, but maybe the reason we haven't heard so much about Kingdom Hearts 4 is because there's a certain somebody working on Final Fantasy 17.
I could see that.
Because, like, think of it this way. What name puts butts in seats to buy shit more than fucking Nomura? Nobody.
Right.
Maybe now Yoshi P. Hamaguchi's on the way, but Hamaguchi's still kind of technically relatively unknown unless you're like us, who are like hardcore fans.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Hamaguchi has to cut his teeth on like an actual like modern day Final Fantasy that isn't a remake or isn't like a spin-off. And then I think he'll definitely be given the right status of being an auteur that he absolutely needs.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Nomura, if you turn around and say Nomura leading FF7, regardless of the way that people feel about Nomura, they're gonna go play that. They're going to play the fucking game.
Yeah, I could see that. I think it would, but I mean, I worry about him being stretched thin because it is like, that is one of the benefits of like, we know what the projects are.
Yeah.
In that, what is it?
The reworking they did the other day.
Like, we have a good idea of what he's working on, and it can't possibly, like, be as overbearing as it was before. Like, during that era of 13 verses and multiple Kingdom Hearts projects. But I mean, even now, it still makes sense that he's at least some hands-on on 7 Rebirth, or whatever the third game will be.
Yeah.
I think it was still in a recent interview that they did say they were pulling devs from 4 for 7 Rebirth, or the third game.
I think that's what they're doing. I think they're clearly trying to get Part 3 out as soon as possible, and then 4 will go into full production.
Yeah,
which means we'll probably see 2028. Do you think it's 17 will be M-rated or like 16 or T-rated like the remake trilogy? They're probably going to go for a T-rating.
Yeah,
I think the M-rating, no matter what. Yeah, the M-rating, it's like the PG-13 versus R mentality. The unfortunate standard is that because they have an plus, like, you need to be 18 to buy it, you are 100% cutting yourself off graphic. Otherwise, play the game that you're talking about.
No, it's, you could... I mean, it doesn't have to be like this, but sometimes that there are, especially for Japanese rating boards, more things you're gonna end up giving up because of it. Like we kept noticing with each of these Tales of remasters, they like alter one thing because of explicitly a Japanese rating board, because all the Tales games are T ratings. They don't want M ratings on them, but they would have like one silly scenario that would put them the rating go up just because of it. Like, what is it, like a middle finger, or character being impaled.
Yeah, but I was gonna say Brazilia is probably the biggest example of that, where someone being stabbed versus someone being ritualistically sacrificed somehow.
Right.
To kind of keep people away from the M rating.
Yeah, so it's I'd savor with the T rating, but you have to like not try to push the boundary with it either.
Yeah.
Right, Niles, what do you got there?
I think the most the craziest thing would be if Kingdom Hearts 4 goes for a full T rating. I think that would be very interesting to see, because it is going for a much more mature vibe as like with Kingdom Hearts.
I could see them leaning into that now with how everyone, I think it was even Nomura talking about it, maybe it was Katase, but that you have to appeal to like your older established audience because you are not releasing games fast enough to keep a younger audience and childhood hooked anymore.
Right.
Like, literally, games cannot be produced at that speed anymore. If they are, they're produced like Pokemon, and if they're being produced like Pokemon, they're still appealing to to a childhood demographic massively and still having massive success, but you are sacrificing a bit of quality there and having other issues.
100%.
And it's like, do you want to sacrifice that to be able to do it like how Pokemon does? But for a lot of like current industry, no one can literally afford to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Music always makes me feel it. Me too, buddy. Remember the Dragon Quest VIII remake in 3DS had a line removed about a character eating dog food. Not sure why that was considered objectionable. Could have been a number of different things, to be honest.
Hold on, let me pull this box from Niles here.
Better not to rush stuff. 100%. I'm always in the mindset that... Well, okay, so here's the thing. I will say this. What the Rebirth team has proven is that you can 100% do the traditional 3-4 year dev cycle and still release one of the craziest, biggest games you've ever had. It's just like, okay, this was talked about in a Night Sky Prince video, but honestly, Alison and I have talked about this at length just in previous streams before. What kills a company is not developing a game, it's developing a fucking engine. When you spend all of your time and resources and money towards like developing an engine, there's so many different things you have to teach people, you have to figure out how the engine works, you have to make sure that the engine platforms, and if you're trying to develop a game alongside that, it's a recipe for fucking disaster. You've seen it happen with multiple different video games, right? So, but back in the day when Frostbite was created, Frostbite was an incredible EA, and specifically for Battlefield games, but because EA wanted an internal engine that they didn't want to kind of like spread off to anybody or just have like some across the company. Now most every game is made, and because of Frostbite had to be retooled very heavily because it's like, you know, Frostbite's really good for Battlefield games, but not necessarily RPGs or sports games, racing games, or anything like that. But now you have to sit there and retool it, or remake it, and other games that the engine will be made for will suffer. In Square Enix's case, you had two engines that were internal. So you had the Crystal Tools engine, which was made during the Final Fantasy 4.0, and the famous Luminous engine, which was created specifically for Final Fantasy 15, and did not go anywhere because of the fact that it was a, like, how much money did they lose? I'm going to look it up. How much money did NC lose on the Luminous? Because it was big. Well, okay, so they were a $30 million loss on Luminous Productions, who took games as a service. Yeah, they lost a bit more. They're like, this was reported back in 2018, but I'm pretty sure Luminous Studios lost a substantial amount of money for Square Enix specifically, whereas Crystal Tools had been retooled to make Final Fantasy 14 again.
Yeah.
And since they had already had knowledge of it, they specifically, like Yoshi P said, we already have like all the know-how and with this team over Crystal Tools because we use it consistently. So we're just going to go ahead and continue to use Crystal Tools. And then that's also the same problem that happened with FF7 Remake, is that Remake, I don't know if you remember, the Remake was being made initially by CC Corp,
right.
which were, if you don't remember who those guys are the Dot Hat guys. And they are mostly known for doing a lot of, how do you say, anime-inspired, like the kind of anime licensed. And for whatever reason, what they had shown Square Enix made them go, no, we're going to move everything internally. And then Remake basically got kind of recreated from the ground up somewhere between 2014 or 2015 and 2020 upon release. So they moved over to the UE engine, which UE has its own fucking problems. Don't get me started on that. I think everybody who's ever played an Unreal game knows exactly what. But it's still a game that, I'm still like an engine that has an immense amount of resources. You know, Night Sky Prince was talking about it specifically on his video. He goes, you could literally just go on YouTube and Google a tutorial in any language, and you will find it. Oh, Oh, a whole cut Honeybee Inn is here.
Yeah.
Wow.
This I remember seeing about in a video. Like, I'm pretty sure this was in the files.
Because this one is
This
very
room.
clearly more. It's less of an implication as it is in the OG for the at least the North American release,
Yeah.
and quite clearly a brothel, like super hard brothel.
It was just like they said it was like Halo Infinite, and also like what we were talking about at the beginning, fucking Xenogears localization. Though I mean, I hear about things about Xenogears aside from its localization, but the fact that the sole translator on it gave up mid-production, and then they had to bring in 2 people who knew nothing about Xenogears story, of all games to be brought in by like that's crazy.
Damn.
With no context, no information, and then that's not how it is. With Japanese companies, we talked about it before, you can't lay off Japanese developers.
Can't. You can only fucking put them on a permanent, what do they call it? A PPO or something like that.
I remember.
What is it that they do? They basically, there is actually like a process for it. What they do is they try to put you in a position in which it's clearly like bitch work.
Right.
Like you are literally only doing like the small bits and pieces of work that nobody wants like to do, and the intent is to get you to walk away, because the amount of laws that protect people in wow, this is all new. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I want that in a working. It's not that you don't do work, you just do a bunch of really boring work. Drag his ass out.
And it's, I believe there's another case of buying the share of the company that an employee has. I forget which company that was at. But anyway, it's much more in the favor of the developer in Japan. So all the famous names of Square Enix are literally still there. The only time they are really leaving is when they get job offers, like from Tencent or something. Those are the only cases where those heads and those names really leave a company, because they can stay there just fine.
Or you have a Tabata situation where Tabata quite literally sat there and said, "Nah, fuck you guys. Like, this is our values clearly do not align."
Or Okubo at Bandai Namco.
Yeah, and even Sakaguchi. I mean,
yeah,
you know.
Where, like, Okubo made Soul Calibur 6 and it still sold very well, but not well enough for Bandai Namco. And it was like, alright, I'll go get respect somewhere else. And then he found absurd amount of respect at Cygames.
Yeah.
But that's a difference with, like, Japanese devs. But yeah, all those devs are like, stay. So it's been fine for Yoshi P's team, who is still like working off branches of Crystal Tools, and then Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy Tactics share the same engine. The Tactics remaster uses the same engine as Final Fantasy 16. Like the Mega Man Star Force collection is not MT Framework, that is in RE Engine. The Mega Man 11 was also in MT Framework, but the new one is in RE Engine. It's what happens when you have, and they retrofitted rollback into MT Framework. That's what happens when you have those developers staying, and people who know the engines get to stay the entire time, and they get to keep growing on it and know what they're doing. We don't do that here, so Halo is gonna go to Unreal, and well, what can you do?
It's insane, because here's the thing: it's that like we can talk all we want about how like Japanese as a whole is and still inherently toxic, unfortunately, due to a lot of like the very much like the don't take work off because you'll be offloading your work to other people, that very hierarchical, like if you are president of the company, it's my way or the highway kind of like there's not a whole lot of what I would call like the Valve mentality. Valve is actually very much, apparently it's why nothing gets done at Valve, but everyone is really happy to work there, because everyone can just fuck off and go to a different project if they'd like to.
Yeah,
like,
you
if someone's
literally
working
your
on one
desk,
particular thing-
your main desk and office is on wheels, and you just wheel
Yes.
over to the department you want to work at.
Right. And it's apparently done incredible for retention, so when they do finally get something done, every time it's always good. Case in point, Deadlock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you've got that situation where there's not a very cooperative atmosphere in terms of creating something. It's very much someone who's at the top of you, but then you have people like Yoshi P and Hamaguchi who are very much trying to kind of sort of eschew that same kind of thing and are making it more of a collaborative process, but also simultaneously retaining people as much as they possibly can. Hamaguchi has gone on record by saying that, like, quite literally, the main reason why they've been able to get everything. Oh, here's Palmer.
Yeah.
Damn. What a dickhead.
What are you here for? What were you doing at the Devil's Sacrament?
Anyways, long story short, we're a revolving door. Like, it's insane. Like, people will work on a project for 5 to 7 years and then immediately get shit canned, and then their entire livelihoods are gone.
Yeah.
Because our company, because that's, I mean, think about it traditionally speaking, like, again, in American, how many Americans are in the chat? But the idea is that if you work at a place for 5 years and you haven't been promoted, you're likely about to get fucking fired.
Right.
Which is what happened to me. That's literally what happened to me last year. I got laid off.
Mm-hmm.
That was my 5th year of working there, and I was just like, you know what? I'm kind of happy where I'm at. I don't really need to go anywhere. Just give me more money in this position. And they're like, no.
Yeah, it's like exactly with my brother.
We're gonna literally give you
there for several years and then let go.
Yeah, I was like, we're just gonna give her position over to AI, and I was like, oh, cool, fantastic. There's a couple ones I'll bring up here. We need more open source engine game engines to compete with UE to just foundational open fixes.
Nobody can afford
really
R&D.
good. What was that?
Not many companies and developers can afford R&D on top of everything else.
Right. You know what engine was really good for that? It was actually pretty decent. That they completely shot themselves in the foot. I'm trying to remember the fucking name. Help me out here. They had that controversy where they tried to change the pricing model, and it was really bad.
Oh, what, Unity? Unity did that?
Yeah,
didn't
Unity.
it?
Yeah.
And they got a lot of flack for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another problem with that Game Freak has is they still have R&D, and that's fucking insane for how fast they produce games. I don't think there's any other developer that could comprehend how Game Freak works, because they have to not just pump those games out as fast as they do, even though they have now slowed down. And by some metric, we get to see the quality benefit of it. But R&D on top of that is insane.
Right. It's the simultaneous. That's what I was saying. It's like the simultaneous development of an engine on top of a video game. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's just not. That doesn't work. We've seen it happen time and time again, and several games have fucking just not worked because of that.
Apparently, Bandai Namco is working on one for the new Ace Combat. But I don't know how that's coming along, because Bandai Namco for the longest time has always been Unreal Engine. And it would sure be great to see them get back to their own engine, but it's really hard to see that happening.
A shame the FF7 mods don't do proper faithful translation. We're literally playing one right now.
Yeah. This, and the extra content you've seen, like all that stuff with the Honey Bean in it, is optional.
Yeah.
If you just want like the significantly more faithful than the original game localization and translation, that's optional. That is there. Medicine voucher.
Sucks because I think the Square's claim to fame back in the day was their great CG graphics, but that milestone around a millstone around their neck, HD era. I mean, it's a little bit more than that. I think Austin would agree with me that it very much is a problem of escalation. You know what I mean? Weirdly enough, Final Fantasy went from being this thing that kind of like was formulaic to a fault in some certain regards, but at the same time, people remember 7, they remember 8, they remember 9, they remember 10. right? It's when they started to kind of try to push the envelope, and they started to people started to kind of put this onus onto the Square Enix as being the ones that are going to be pushing they get themselves kind of like took the onus on it being like the AAA JRPG that will continuously do everything in its power to always like push the needle forward. You know what I mean? And because of that, they just sort of suffered from. There's just they always have to constantly keep reinventing the wheel when no one else is doing that.
Yeah. So it's I mean, it was more like what is it? In Final Fantasy 16, I think has to like inherently suffer from it, but it is like they used to be the leader, not the follower, and were the trendsetters. But then there's a lot of things to 16 that are more conventional and things you wouldn't expect, or things you would completely expect because everyone else is doing them now too. But it just simply isn't, the industry around them isn't the same anymore either.
Yeah.
And it's not even supposed to be like an excuse for it. It just kind of sucks that that's how it is.
I think out of all the companies back then, like, because if you really think about it, Japanese companies, I think, suffered the hardest from the transition from SD into HD. There's a few that did pretty well. Capcom, obviously notorious for a lot of its banger releases during the launch era of Xbox and PS3. But Square Enix notoriously, I mean, they flocked the Crystal Tools engine, Final Fantasy 13 Versus, Final Fantasy 13 as a whole.
Well, what I was learning was a big part of that whole era during that time specifically was when Autodesk started to become the standard for 3D. And when Autodesk became industry standard, it did not have proper Japanese translation. So you saw many Japanese companies who had all of their tools deprecated, and all of their pipelines shifted into new software that nobody could read or interpret or knew how to use because there was no translation for it. So that is a core reason why a lot of Japanese developers during that era specifically really struggled, is because of that shift to Autodesk when it abruptly took over. And that put in a lot of just so much tech that was completely not could be understood. I need to get.
I still think the biggest kick in the pants.
Go on.
I think the biggest kick in the pants was them completely deboing and eliminating the mod project for FF15, because those mod tools were going to be so extensive. You could create, like, Tabata was like, literally you can create your own engine. And I feel like maybe that's what Square Enix was just really afraid of, was they like this incredible engine that had lost them so much money being put in the hands of people, even on the small scale, potentially making just better experiences than they were at the time, so they just shit can the project. Which is insane. It fucking sucks, but... Because, like, here's the thing. Unreal is such that it's so crazy that Kingdom Hearts 3 is acting as a springboard for projects that are... I don't know if you've been paying attention to any of them, like the modding projects for Kingdom Hearts 3. It's insane. There is somebody who is recreating all of 358 and a half days in Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, full recreation. Just from, like, the combination of Unreal Engine, I think it's 3 or 4. I think it's 4 that KH3 is on. And all the changes that KH3 did to the engine. It's insane.
There we go. All right.
Our engine's probably the best case scenario for custom engines. It has problems too. See case in point, Monster Hunter Wilds.
Which they're figuring it out, because not only does Monster Hunter Stories 3 use RE Engine, but it uses like the exact same framework and movement. Like, straight up, you move around in that turn-based RPG like you move around in a Monster Hunter game, in World and Wilds and Rise, which is really fucking cool. And anyway, that's still cel-shaded, but the performance of that game is fantastic still. They're figuring it out, but they are already moving on to their next engine after RE Engine anyway.
Right. Square could have gone the Sega route and had mediocre games get salvaged by fan mods.
They did like a whole bunch of low budget games. Everything Mana and Saga have been put out. Like Mana and Saga didn't like go on much of a hiatus because they kept releasing remasters and new games.
I think the biggest issue is their inability to market said titles, because I mean that other game came out last year, the VII one or other.
Also Star Ocean.
Star Ocean. Oh my god,
They compete with themselves. They compete with themselves all the time. And they compete with themselves in eras where nobody else is really competing with them either.
Right. It's unnecessary competition. It doesn't make any sense.
Which is why it was a good thing for them to explain why they're gonna space things out going forward.
Well, that's what I think the biggest issue with Square Enix was their lack of like direction. They are. It felt like for the last decade and a half, it was almost like them kind of just struggling to sort of figure out what it is they wanted to do, because clearly in the new modern era, so the intention behind the Fabula Nova Crystallis franchise was that they wanted FF13 to be their next big moneymaker. So you had Versus. I mean, Versus too. I think Versus also just. I'm gonna rejoin because I think I'm kind of.
Okay.
Because I see my mic kind of fucking up. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like if you think about like the Versus 13 development cycle, it was very notorious for being something that like ultimately they had to turn around and go, Nomura, we just can't do this on modern day hardware, bro.
That's right.
Like, this is something we cannot. Like, your ambitions are literally too much for the Versus, and you want to do 3 games. Like, that's the thing too. So you had 3 separate games in the Final Fantasy 13 just timeline itself. Then you had Agito, which turned into Type 0. Then you had Versus, which turned into 15, that was originally supposed to be 6 games. So they had, if you think about it, like if it all kind of came together, 3 games with 13, 3 games with Versus, two games with fucking both in Type Agito and Type 0. That's an insane amount of games, while also working on all of the Kingdom Hearts stuff at the same time, and an MMO.
Yeah.
So they were very, very all over the place. And you could tell that after a certain amount of time, it just made everybody working there kind of feel like just burnt the fuck out. So you had people like Tabata and Hamaguchi and a couple other people having to show up to these projects and be like, okay, how do we reinvigorate people to get like motivated again? And then I think ultimately the CEO and like all the people on the board at Square Enix kind of saw the writing on the wall and were like, we have to cancel so many different projects that we've been working on just to make sure that like Kingdom Hearts 4, Final Fantasy 17, wherever that's going to be, the remake trilogy gets done. Like there's so many games that we have to get fucking done, while simultaneously also running an MMO that is successful, but is also kind of on the backhand right now. I think it's lost like a lot of good, just from like, even though like I've heard that the expansion is 50-50 with so many people, they lost a lot of good, what's the word I'm looking for?
Faith?
Yeah, good
goodwill.
Faith. Goodwill, good faith from people.
It is 50-50. It definitely feels like, I mean, they had Endwalker was a pretty conclusive end. Like I would say like anyone that just played up to Endwalker, you got a complete story there. The story that started in A Realm Reborn has had a conclusion and concludes, and anything post that, we'll see what they try to do now, but that is how it felt. But and you could also feel the budget rein in. There were significantly less voiced cutscenes and voice-acted moments in Dawn Trail. Significantly less. And I think they even it impacts how people perceive the story, because people forget a lot more details that aren't said out loud. So it feels like the story's worse, even though to a degree I don't think it is, but a lot of important details don't stay with you because they're literally not voiced. And I think that's to like a pretty extreme degree of how much that matters, because yeah, there was a lot that should have been voiced.
Yeah.
And then by like 2 patches in, they did start voicing a lot more. You can see them like trying to rein it back in.
Yeah. I think, you know, it's funny because we think about like how crazy, like, I think pretty much that Final Fantasy XIV 2.0, well, around Reborn and then everything onwards, we're at like the 13-year mark now that it's been around.
It's a while.
It's been a while.
It's been like it existed longer than 11 has.
Right.
By that point when 14 started.
So I'm thinking
17 is not going to be an MMO.
Yeah, it's not going to be an MMO, but I'm thinking maybe they are thinking about or working on. I know that apparently there's going to be a massive. I'm hearing about like a massive like changing of something happening with FF14 specifically. Because now that they're on basically like the next gen or current generation consoles entirely, I believe PS4 is still around, but I think they're going to cut those off pretty soon too.
That would kind of suck, but we'll see.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't know, maybe we want to step to a different project if that has to be required. But I guess that depends how large the PS4 base still is. But we are pretty far into the PS5, and I don't know.
That's the thing, is that like, what do we do? Do we continue down this pipeline of trying to make like wowify it by, you know, constantly feeding into new game releases for a game that is, and make it go into the 20-year mark, which they probably can, because there's a strong enough base for people still playing FF14, but you know.
If anyone's familiar with how this progress goes in the Shinra Archeology cut, please let me know what we have to do to move on.
Oh boy.
I'll try talking to NPCs I normally wouldn't talk to, because you don't have to usually talk to them.
So what do you got? You got the perfume, you need the wig.
Yeah, the wig, dress. Which nobody's here to do this with yet. So you can't do the minigame here yet.
So you get the guy with the dress? What is he saying?
Nothing. At the shop and then here. Like, he's still stuck there. I got the medicine voucher already. So I got the perfume.
Aerith's not with you.
Yeah, she is.
I don't think. Oh, she is.
Yeah. She left when we went to Honeybee and then came back when we left it. And then at the Honeybee Inn, they want
the guy up there. Or I guess talk to the guy up there and see what he's... No, I meant like at the mansion.
The mansion, yeah, we'll go up there again. And they for a new MMORPG. They'll, isn't Dragon Quest X ending?
It's ending pretty soon.
Which, by the way, you know how long, like, Dragon Quest X's been going on for? That's crazy. It's really cool, though.
That private server is gonna go fucking nuts, bro. I can't wait. Because it's already like almost fully translated, like almost all of it.
Right, and I think that is because the offline version of it, even though that one's still Japan only, I think it still changes how it plays quite a bit. So people want the online version translated rather than offline. Let's text box some more info about Tifa. I think we did that earlier, but I'll go give it a shot.
If you're stuck on the Wall Street, don't talk to just for the fat guy outside of the Honeybee Inn. Talk to the guy inside the inn towards the left. Took me an hour to figure out.
How long was that message?
No, I'm looking at it on Reddit.
Oh, okay. I was like, if someone said that in chat, I can't believe I missed that. This guy.
I talked to that guy.
So more than once. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Oh, and when I did, I think I didn't know if I clicked the Tifa one. Don't get me started. Okay, cool. It was like that earlier with one of the other ones too. Yeah, here we go. All right, thank you, chat. And Reddit person.
All right, I'll be right back. I think food just got here. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, like this sort of content is all like completely optional. I do remember seeing about it ages ago, and I think that like the lobby for the Honeybee Inn was something left over in the files. I think it's on the cutting room floor. If anything of it is here, it's more than likely documented on the cutting room floor, and that would be the ideal place just to see like any of that content that was restored from there. And taking a breather. It's been a long stream because we've been yapping for so long. And at the same time, Niles here has been up and down. It's also getting hotter, the temperature. The weather's so nice though, at least. Was I paying attention? Did Aerith pitch the idea of her friend? Okay, yeah, she did, because that's what the dude was talking about. Okay, so now we can go back here. Now we can go here. Now we can go here. In the bar. It does not feel like 2 hours. I feel like I've been live for... I was just talking about this with Phil. Like, streaming can feel exhausting, especially when we knew what we were going to talk about, and we were ready for it. So we got it all out there. But it's condensed into 2 hours. I think for my YouTube channel, that's fine. But it's exhausting to yap 2 hours straight. It's the kind of effort put into just like recording it if it were standalone. That's what Phil and I did when we finished 7 Rebirth. Was in a video, we talked about it. I think something that would make it easier and something that may be worth understanding is talking slower. Which is another thing that frustrated me going back to watching my FF7 port review, was listening to not just how fast I was talking, but information I think would have been cool to see more detail on that I ended up glossing over. Oh god, oh shit, this isn't the same. So I don't know what it is now. You're getting old, that's true, yeah. I think soft and shimmers? That's what I think in OG it's soft and shimmers, but when it's properly translated like that, I'm not gonna know. And that also means if you look that up in a guide and play it, because if you care enough about that, you're not gonna get the right thing anyway. Cotton dress, I don't think that's it. Sonic board reviews. I don't do any Sonic board reviews. Or was that the joke? Oh, we need the wig, right? I want to do Final Fantasy. Because it's so
no one can ever
familiar.
tell me I don't love my boy Austin. No one can tell me I don't love my boy Austin because I'm looking at this plate of food my family brought me from the Easter dinner that I should have been at.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, nah, I promised my friend. I'm sorry, guys. I'll join you later. And they're like, we're all just going home because they've been doing Easter shit all day.
Oh.
I completely forgot. As my schedule had been fucked, so I woke up like 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked at it like, I got a ham, I got the green beans, I got the mac and cheese, I got the mashed potatoes. I'm like,
Man.
damn, I would have eaten like a king. But here I am, talking about video games and the internet.
Yeah, Wooly. I know what the buttons are. Those are supposed to go to actual icons. I don't know why they're going to that, but... Oh, whoops.
What's the alpha button?
Yeah, this is supposed to be like literally the mod is supposed to turn those literally into the icons.
You didn't celebrate, so now Aerith is going to stay dead. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna stick Aerith in a fucking cave for a little bit. In 3 days' time, she's gonna come right back.
Oh, geez. Okay, got it.
So shoutouts to Square Enix for taking the easiest minigame of all time and then completely fucking it up for everybody after.
I'm glad yeah, a bunch of people on the same page too. Like they went a little far with the minigames and their difficulties in Rebirth, and I did them all up until the stupid fighting game one. But even then, I found out you could cheese that one, but it was already too late. I did literally everything else in the game I did up to that point, and because I really wanted to fight Gilgamesh.
Oh no, I had to do it. You're right. I had to do it. Yeah.
So I did everything except that because it was just too frustrating, and I was already frustrated at that point. Mm-hmm. And I know I wasn't alone in that sentiment about the mini games of it, and then they toned them down later in updates anyway, which was like good.
You know, to be honest, I think the biggest issue I have with Rebirth is in terms of replay value, it is very hard.
Yeah,
and I'm hoping that part 3 kind of gets rid of a lot of like the busy work, because the first time around you're playing and you're like, wow, I just love being in this world, but like the Ubisofting that was happening, like I hope that they really learn their lesson and kind of don't do that again.
Right.
Or at least very least, I always thought, like, you know what would be really cool? Because the whole point of doing the fountains, right, is that it like unlocks a fight or whatever. It's like, why not just tie that whole fountain thing, the tower thing, and the summon thing all into one? So that when you're going over to these summon stones, you're doing the stuff and you're learning more about the land, because it makes more sense because the summon is tied to the land of that area.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of sitting there and having to do all of these objectives, it's basically one core one, you know?
Yeah, it's getting your money's worth out of it, but I would still rather it just not be that much anyway. But it's a lot. But yeah, hopefully it's doesn't go that far.
I really do hope it's a like the Bears Porridge situation. You know what I mean? Remake is a little too linear. Rebirth is a little too open. Part 3 is going to be just right.
Right.
Just right. Please.
Yeah, yeah. It was with Maximilian had talked about it when he replayed it. He ignored side content, and that does seem like a better approach for Rebirth and what I want to do. So I was telling with you, at this point, yeah, I want to replay through 7 Remake and Rebirth before Part 3, and in doing that, it's going to be beelining the main stuff, not really doing the side stuff, or if I do it, it'll be off-stream.
Well, you know, the thing is, I've played... I think about the fact that I played Remake Part 1 more than 5 times.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I beat the fuck out of that game, and I beat it left and right. Like, that game was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I love Rebirth. I have beaten Rebirth 1 time.
Right.
It's hard for me to go back to it because of how insane like the amount of content is there.
Yeah, it's an absurd amount of content. Yep.
Right, but I'm attempting to do a how do you say, a hard playthrough of it. But I'll be honest with you, I'm only doing it with somebody's save file.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I have like my full like 100% save file is on the PS5.
It's on PS5.
And I would rather play it on, exactly. I would play it on PC. Game's gonna be the awkward stepchild that shoehorns vehicle section in the game. Dude, the way they're already talking about it, the snowboard minigame might just be frame 1. Like, we might get the snowboard minigame frame 1, which would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited, but it's soon. There we go.
Well, the problem with extra content is that there's a lot of extra content in Rebirth that is worth it. Like, a lot of the green side quests are fantastic. You know what I mean? But it's the old minutia that kind of sucks. And I would argue that the Gilgamesh inspired storylines are kind of like they're iffy. Like the first one is good. The second one is fine. The third one I think takes place in you can't finish it because it's like place in where Gold Saucer is. You have to come back to it at a later time, which fucking sucks. And then the next one is goddamn what's it? That the jungle area that I'm blanking on. Gungaga. Gungaga fucking sucks. Gungaga is one of the most insane, like the fact that is a handcrafted mess.
Yeah, it's a handcrafted mess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like incredible, right? But now they're getting through Gungaga to do any sort of side content, like that's what did it for me. That I went to Gungaga and I was enjoying the game, and then I started doing side content there, and I said, I'm gonna just beeline the rest of the fucking game. I can't. This is ass.
Right. Yeah.
Is the battle system the same as the first game? No. No, I would argue it is a leap from as someone I think Austin and agree. We both said that the remake combat system is one of the best combat systems of all time. The jump from remake to rebirth is the same kind of jump from KH1 Final Mix to KH2 Final Mix.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, it's really a upgrade, and the way they balance the fights too in rebirth is so good, and it's very much for a lot of people it can end up as a skill check if you can figure out the game's combat system or not.
Because there's a lot more, I call them gimmicks, but they're not like gimmicks in like the bad sense. There's a lot of basically a lot of fights in remake can kind of become kind of brought down to one point, which is you didn't get it. Oh.
Yeah, I fucked up asking for the dress, but I fucked up on the dress specifics because it's not. I couldn't tell what it was supposed to be from the original. In the original, it's soft and shimmers, and it did not say. It said soft, but it didn't say shimmer. I wasn't sure which one it was supposed to be shimmers.
You didn't play Kingdom Hearts? Damn.
Well, Kingdom Hearts 2 is revered for its incredible combat.
Yeah. Let me put it to you this way. If Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of my favorite ARPGs of all time, like in JRPGs, like combat systems in a JRPG of all time, Rebirth is like right below that.
Right.
Like right below that. Because a lot of what it adds is just really good. I think that what they need to do, I hope that I hope everybody in chat agrees with me here too. I'm hoping that Hamaguchi and his team, the basis of what they were working on is looking at that fight against Bahamut in Advent Children and going, we want to make that fight happen in part 3. Meaning, I want the verticality, I want the wall running, I want the crazy fucking team-based tactics of throwing people up. I want all of that in part 3. And they're going to have to do it for us to fight the weapons. So I'm very excited to see what the weapon fights look like.
Yeah.
Handled like a quick time event? What? That is the craziest. You gotta explain that. You gotta explain that. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, don't get me wrong, but like that is.
I'm just not sure which QuickTime events.
Yeah, I don't even know how to parse what you're saying.
Maybe you meant 16?
Yeah,
that had quick times. I haven't not been picked since, like, I played this game when I was young. I don't know what you're doing here.
Oh. You gotta talk to everybody. There you go.
There we go, okay.
Because I'm a man, baby. Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm kind of, I like the fact that they got rid of, like, the more, you know, problematic elements of this place, while at the same time still inferring that it's not a good place. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an outright brothel in the traditional sense, but it is still a brothel. You know what I mean? Because you still see Palmer. You have this scene where Palmer's running around with one of the girls. So it's very much one of those, like, it's actually a little bit more nefarious because of that, where it's, like, underneath all of this, like, you know, crazy cool club stuff happening in the background, there's just a whole ass whorehouse just sitting here.
Right. It feels much more like a red light district, like, up front.
Yeah.
But it is also T-rated game.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't sanitized. It was just, you know...
That's true.
It was just, like, it made a little bit more sense, I think, for what their version of Wall Market was, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of like... It's sort of like a... It's more like a traditional burlesque show, more than anything. Because, like, the sexiness is still a part of it, and there's also... Because you still see Palmer and people in hidden rooms. Like, there's still the brothel aspect of it. It's just not as, like... At least in the OG... It wasn't as, like, straightforward as it is in the traditional, like, cut-off thing that we see here. So I don't think it's sanitized. I think it's just kind of, like, not so on the nose, which I think is a little better. Because it makes for... Like, this is the part where we're talking about with, like, storytelling, where, like, subtlety is a little better than just, like, outright saying something.
Mm-hmm. And 7 is really all about that.
Yeah.
With its pacing.
I feel like you don't need to learn Remake's battle systems, including the fact that material is so strong with Eric, and the fact you can do the Yuffie ATB trick makes most of the post-game challenges very easy. I can see that. Yeah, okay, the facial expression makes this so much better. Holy shit. I kind of sucks that they cut that out.
It was, I mean, part of it is it was unfinished. So, like, the faces could be like that, but they didn't have it, like, programmed and tied to the scenes.
Right.
So it's not, you know, it's things like that. It makes it harder to perceive some of the cut content because they restore it to a playable degree like this, when, like, how it was in the files may not have even been complete. It's not like just like a toggle. Because we haven't had, like, I don't think we really had the means of restoring it to this degree until more recently.
Yeah.
But it's really cool that we do have it, and we can see what it would have been like.
Well, middle, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, like I said, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I just feel like that's just a fundamental misunderstanding of the combat system. So, I don't know, bud.
I don't know.
I think that button mashy is a very... Not to sit there and give you shit about it, brother, because I'm not trying to antagonize you by any stretch of imagination. But I just think that people need to have a bit of a better way to explain something other than button mashy, because... Yes, you can mash buttons, but in order to actually make it through the harder fights in that game in, like, good time, you definitely need to employ ATB and the usage of, like, materia and like, all the different materia, like, leads to different play styles as a whole, which is why the materia system is so cool. So, like, I don't know if I agree. Like, that's what I'm trying to...
I mean, it would also be... If you thought it was button mashy and also you thought some enemies were bullet spongy, well, I think you know why then.
Yeah, it just sounds like a fundamental misunderstanding of the combat system.
But in some cases, like in Final Fantasy 15 can be played that way, but Final Fantasy 16 combat does have depth to it. You just have no incentive or reason or motivation to explore how in-depth it is.
Right, whereas in Remake you absolutely do.
Yeah, I feel like in Remake you do.
Yeah.
Like 15 would be the idea. Is the DLC fights for 15? They did do it proper. Like they finally figured it out how to incorporate and make interesting use of some of the mechanics they had. But up till that point, there was no like real incentive to do it. Also, magic just wasn't as fun to use in 15.
Yeah. I mean, it was barely any, so...
Right.
Can also be held on one button, though I'd say button mash would be the opposite for that game, at least. Well, the thing is that people... Okay, so I think people have, like, a really baseline understanding of the concept of, like, button mash combat, right? When I think of button mash combat, I think of Oni-chan-bara. I think of, like, a Muso game. I think of, like, I'm literally only pressing one button, and it's swathing a path through multiple fucking enemies, and I'm having, like... The fun is the feeling of, oh, tons of enemies on screen are dying. But people sit there and they always conflate real-time action with quote-unquote button mashy because they're not trying to learn the system. And, like, people call Devil May Cry a button masher, which is not a button masher at all. In fact, the game goes out of its way to literally incentivize you and punish you for button mashing. So... when you look at like the 15 combat system, all of it was very much about position. Very position heavy. Because you had a lot of situations, right? Depending on the direction of like that you were using and how you kind of like move the stick while holding the button.
Yep.
It also depended on like where you were in relation to the enemy and to your characters that were next to you. So you would have like
conceptually wise, that's pretty cool.
It's cool as shit. It just wasn't executed super well, but like...
Yeah, it wasn't utilized.
I still like the FF15. Yeah.
It's the same thing with like 16, I could argue, didn't utilize a lot of its functions because it's so freeform in playing how you want. But it doesn't have the deliberate enemy design that like Remake and Rebirth have. That's a different way of putting it, is Remake and Rebirth have such deliberate enemy design and fights to them. You did not button mash like the what's his face? Reeve? No, not Reeve. Rufus.
Rufus.
You cannot Rufus. You cannot button mash Rufus. And that's Rufus like the exact point of it.
Yeah, Rufus is 100% a skill check. Like, oh, you've been just kind of going through and button mashing? Get fucked. Get shot.
Yeah.
Get countered. And it was so cool. So Middle, if that was your problem with it, I would say try Rebirth. Rebirth 100% adds the things that you're talking about. Because I will say that you're correct. They try to go for a much more quote-unquote traditional RPG aspect of it when they ask, like, why don't you have, like, things where you, like, there's, like, a traditional dodge or anything like that. The dodges work, and you have a parry button with everybody in the game.
By the way, in a game like this, also, these turn-based games, and some of the newer ports of these games lose this. In all of these old RPGs, all of these old turn-based RPGs, PS1, Super Nintendo, they're designed to let you hold the button and automatically go through the menus. In some of their remasters, they lose this feature where you have to mash A instead. I have been holding the A button for the last like 2 minutes, and I have done nothing else besides that right there. Because you can do that, and you can do that in all of these old RPGs, because they knew you would, because they know how grinding is. That's how you grind in these games without really giving a shit, is because they're designed with combat systems where you can hold the A button to menu through them automatically and not even look at the screen. Mm-hmm. All of them are like that. Like almost every old RPG from this era has combat where in the menus you can hold the button through the menus.
Right.
And that's why they're
100%.
so fast and they're so snappy.
Even Muso has a little more depth than that, so you can choose different combo routes. That's what I'm saying. It's like, even to sit there, because like, look at like fucking Dynasty Warriors Origin, whatever the one that just came out like last year. That one is fucking cool as shit.
Was it a remake?
That one has so much depth to it. I think it's like a reimagining.
I think, yeah.
But it's like, and that one has like, that's literally like an ARPG at that point. Like, it's fucking sick.
Mm-hmm.
Who we dating? Childhood friend at Tombstone. That's the thing is that like I think that button mashy is such a lazy, and I'm not trying to be like a dickhead about it, because so you'll say here you go, okay, Elden Ring broke me, it just set the bar so much higher than other games with real-time combat. Okay, if I was being an asshole, not to sit there and try to be an asshole, but to kind of like prove my point, if we're being really honest, what is Elden Ring? I press dodge, I press R1 once, I press dodge, I press R2.
You're reading the enemy animations, and
yeah,
you know where you get that? You do get that in Rebirth.
Yeah.
Like, it is a conceptually, yeah, there are other games that do utilize that.
Right. So it's just like, you can simplify a lot of the different combat elements, but the thing is, Elden Ring has so many different things you can do with the different builds, the different weapons that you use, the magic and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But to sit there and just kind of simplify it into just that one cohesive like structure without necessarily understanding the systems as a whole, that's why it's just like, I hate to say it, but it's a conversation that will be as old as time at this point, where the idea is, are you really understanding the game that you're playing? And is that a problem that's on you or on the game? You know what I mean? Because sometimes the game will just flat out not be able to express or explain its mechanics to you in as well of a way that you can engage with it.
Xenoblade.
You have that situation. Right. Exactly. Like the idea that, even like Xenoblade 3, right? Like, I think Xenoblade 3 is a great system. Do I know... Is everybody like switching to different characters and dodging and doing all that shit? I've seen people not do that.
Right.
Which is crazy to me, because switching to characters while you're on cooldown with one character is like part of the design, and why it's so fun, because that combat, there's always something happening throughout the entirety of the combat encounter, and you can just like you can even pick like a favorite character with a favorite build, and like it's cool as shit. But I've seen people just kind of stick with Noah the whole time and just be like, whatever.
Yeah. But then it's like that has like their best tutorial was in 3, and then the glow up of tutorial from the original version of X to the remake, or to the definitive edition of X. All the tutorial stuff that's in definitive edition of X was not in the original. They really just let you go and try to figure it out, despite putting all that depth to the systems in the first place.
Right.
And even some like how what is it? Like what is it? Targeting limbs and stuff was so important in Xenoblade X, and you didn't even really have control of that in the original. Hi Jay, welcome.
Here's a good example. You want to know what the real mechanic is, Austin? The real understanding? I was able to successfully overclock in fucking X now because of the remake, the way you explained it.
Oh yeah. It's not, and if like you ask a lot of people for Xenoblade in general, and people say who try it on their own and didn't really get it or connect with it, the thing I saw countless times is recommending a YouTuber's Let's Play of it, because he breaks it down so fucking well that the game, in a way that the game does not do, and it makes the combat make so much more sense. But that's like a shared community thing of people's recommendations for how to learn to play the game is watching one specific YouTuber's Let's Play of it to understand it as a tutorial. FF7 does have something like that, where in the original Japanese version, we're talking about things that happen in QA. In the original Japanese version, at the very start of the game, after you name Cloud, what does Barrett tell you? He tells you how to run.
Oh yeah.
He didn't do that in Japanese. They must have been sitting there watching QA playtest the game and watching everybody walk, and like, why is nobody running? And it wasn't until they got to localizing and putting out another version of the game where they had it properly explained how to do it.
Well, this goes back to one of my hottest takes, and that's, I'll be so honest with you guys. I think everyone here watching this chat, probably really smart individuals. I think Austin and I are pretty smart.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're not smart enough to remove yellow paint. Not yet. I'm just honest with you right now. I think all of us collectively, we're not smart enough to remove yellow paint or any kind of indication to like help with that.
It sucks.
So the yellow
and
paint
I don't have time to play games that don't have yellow paint.
Right. I mean, okay, here, great example. I'm going through Crimson Desert right now, and there's bits that I'm enjoying and bits that I'm hating, and that's kind of like the whole point of that game so far, is that there's just so much in that game. So you'll eventually find something that you're gonna like, but the weird thing about it is they keep talking about how it's not holding your hand, it's not no yellow paint. You know what their answer for it is, Austin? Skill Up talked about this at a preview event, and he said there is a early game puzzle that stumped all of us because it did not explain anything about what we're supposed to do. Their answer, an objective marker that says exactly what to do. They don't try to. It was too close to release. Yeah. They just straight up said, "This is how to solve the puzzle. Go solve it."
Oh, and
that is a large majority of the game so far that I've played. Is that it refuses to stop holding my hand. In fact,
in FF7, the indicators, these were also in the American version and were not originally in Japanese. If you played the original Japanese version, you would be playing without those indicators.
Right.
Yeah, that was the thing they added by the time of the localization.
Donnie, I would agree with you if I didn't see that clip of the guy playing Portal 2. That was, he had to have been memeing how bad he was playing it.
There's
like it is, it's insane.
And to RE9, where some of this Resident Evil in general, and I noticed in like some parts of RE9, well, one reason they do it is because the art styles and graphic fidelity are so fucking high that it's harder to make. Those level design has always been about having something stand out to the player. It just has to get more obvious because everything gets so much more detailed in environments because you could put so much shit in them. An easy one used now is let the environment be detailed, but enemies, if everything is going to be static except enemies moving on screen, is something they take advantage of. And I was noticing that in RE9 in a part I was at, where it was targeting with a missile, and the only way you're going to know where to easily target is looking out for something moving, because everything is literally the same color and blends right in. And it's those kind of things to at least try to avoid the yellow paint. It's just when you make it too obvious to the player that that's what you're doing. Yellow paint is something that's always been done. It just wasn't as bright of a yellow, I guess you would say. The yellow wasn't surrounded by all these other objects because it would always stand out. Conceptually, yellow paint is nothing new, is the way I would phrase it.
For Uncharted, it's very protruding hand ledges.
Right.
Last of Us, it's a ladder. You know?
I don't like when they solve it for you. Yeah, it's just, but unless it's like optional. But I mean, sometimes it also depends on the game. And I gotta, in a bunch of remasters I get to play, like in Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined actually goes probably too far. I think their idea there is to really go too far to see with like, that is the team making Dragon Quest 12. So they're doing what they can in 7 Reimagined and getting a base idea for what they can do in 12. Because 12 is pretty arguably going way too far in its hand-holding mechanics and what it's doing for you, especially in a game that was not doing any of that. But it is appreciated.
I forgot they're working on 12 right now. Holy shit.
Right, because it's been so long.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it. It wasn't the Kingdom Hearts devs. They took devs off of Dragon Quest 12. And they were helping out with Final Fantasy VII, the third game. That's what it was. But yeah, it's like putting the newer Tales remasters do it where they put on screen a lot more info, like objective markers visible at all times, things like that. Which for some of those games like Berseria, that was always there. You just what is it? The on-screen marker wasn't there before, but it was information the game always told you. You just didn't have it as intuitively. But I mean, it's always there, and I mean, it comes from QA research, why they do it and why they keep trying to amp it up.
Yeah, like
at least when it's optional.
I hate to tell you guys.
At least it's optional.
Yeah, you could be the smartest person of all time, and there will be moments where you sit there and go, "Fuck, what do I do? Where do I go?"
Yeah, and it's not even about intelligence. It's about, especially nowadays, what are you going to do when you get disinterested? You're going to play a different game? That wasn't really nearly as much of a consideration back then. Not nearly the same. Where what other game were you going to go play instead? You know, that wasn't the common thing. You had a game and that was it. You're going to wander around lost in it because everyone would do that. You would wander around in a game lost and explore it, like, every inch of it. Because what were you going to do? Go play your daily game? Go play something else? That wasn't how it was back then. Now there's way too much competition to risk letting you get disengaged like that. And it sucks, but that is how it is. Fuck.
Really like how Horizon 2 permitted us with the yellow paint. They make it a part of the hollow UI in the world. There are yellow X's on rocks you can climb, but it's part of the world. That's the thing, is that I feel like you can 100% have those those things happen, but what you can really see, like, the care and the want to kind of keep people into the world. I think a really good example of something that, like, an objective marker that quite literally you got to go in the train and then bring it forward.
I thought I did.
No, you got the other one, the one you're on top of. Yeah, that one to your right. Hop in.
Oh, there it goes.
Dead Space. Dead Space is quite literally showing you where to go, but it makes sense from an in-universe standpoint because there's so much shit happening in that ship at one time, and it doesn't pull you out of the game at all. And I love how diegetic all of Dead Space's experiences as a whole, where it's just all about keeping you in the viewpoint of Isaac, and it's so fucking neat.
Yeah.
Because if we're being so honest with you, it is quite literally telling you where to go. It is just a line. But because it's handled so well in universe, it's like, okay, I don't mind it as much because it totally makes sense that Isaac would have oh, click on the map somewhere, boom, here it goes.
Yeah.
Didn't this take an hour?
Health bar, yeah.
Yes.
I haven't played Dead Space, but I've watched playthrough of it, and yeah, that's a cool factor of it. In-universe things like that.
And even then, in the second game, where you're supposed to know exactly about the mechanic of the health bar, there is still a moment in the game where you happen upon someone who loses their mind, and he has a break from his own psychosis to point at you and go, game mechanic. He quite literally points at you and goes, your bar is red. It's red. Go in there and heal. And you go, oh, okay. Does it make sense that he's crazy in the universe? Yes. But it's literally him saying, go heal, you idiot.
Yeah.
Have a good one, Donnie.
Shit, there was a point about 7 here I remember. Oh. It was about the localization again, about they talked about Eris being more of a miscommunication because they recognized it and made the choice to do Eris because they did not have the time to ask about it and then get back to it. And we almost
Right.
had a similar situation with Barrett's name, because Barrett's name, translated in the same way, would be Bullet. But they decided
Oh.
he shouldn't be named Bullet, so did Barrett. So it is like the conscious choice of like Eris is a result of the same like conscious choice, but either way, like we could have ended with either because there was no time to consult, or the proper there was a lack of communication back at that time to get an answer on that.
Is it literally just because like it's I might be wrong, but is it because it's in Japanese it's pronounced eritsu?
Right.
Because there's no th like
Because like the literal pronunciation. But it's also because of where and they were debating on it, like the dude was debating on it because it does come from like the Earth. So Aerith also made sense. But that was the choice for Erisu was still made before getting consultation about that. So like it's very possible that they would have asked and they would have got Aerith back, but they did not. And it could have been it could have ended on the same fate with Barrett's name, but we didn't have that. Damn it. This game turned out okay. Yeah, even just like localization wise, like the game in Japanese was so like prepped and done to the last minute, and you can't make a game like that anymore.
Guys, I don't know if you know this. Most of the games that you love were rushed to release. A lot of them.
Before there was like any standard.
Star Online? Right. Did you know that Phantasy Star Online was a rushed release? The first iteration of it? Did you know that Halo 2 was a rushed release?
That one, yeah, that one shows.
Even with those delays.
In the second half, I felt it did.
Yeah. I mean, with the ending. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, so... It's kind of insane how we all sit there and be like, oh man, all these games back in the day, they were so future complete. And you go, were they?
Right. Yeah. The distance in being able to see faces may have also been another part of that decision.
Yeah.
And why they didn't want to put time on the faces, because in 3D it would be smaller to see them anyway. Shit. There we go. There we go. Got it.
Yeah, Halo CU as well.
Shit, I don't have anyone to heal. It asked me about healing, but because the icons were fucked up, I didn't parse it. So I'm stuck without any healing materia.
It's been a while since I fought Reno in Remake.
Damn it.
Did they have... It was Pyramid Mechanic in Remake?
Yeah, it was.
Fuck, Remake is so cool.
I didn't see
what
my
about your item?
target reticle. I don't know who I just shot. Items? No, I went through them already.
Wow.
Because I forgot I had that materia from the beginning. Oh, I just look at the text. Yeah, there we go. Well, unless we're getting lucky. Once again, a whole day fight. Because that's how these games were.
Modern games are over-designed. Older games are less guided by the hand of developers for better or worse.
The ambition and scope of games is, for most developers, extremely hard to maintain.
Right. Listen, I think it's really easy for like a small minority of people to turn around and say one thing or the other. The problem right now that I'm kind of experiencing is that there is just like a fundamental misunderstanding between the way that games are kind of developed and what the intention behind creating a game is in the first place. Because I don't know if you heard about all those peak shenanigans.
I think so.
You heard about that?
Because they didn't seem as interested in making the game seem live service.
Right. Well, they sit there and they were like, we've never intended on this being a live service. It would only got updates because of how popular the game was. So any update is considered a privilege and a right. And people got really upset because they're like, well, I spent money on it. It's like, you spent $8, bro.
I thought it was interesting because they do like the mountain changes daily, right?
Yeah.
I kind of perceived it like that from that mechanic.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I hear you. But the thing is that they did not intend on it being a game that they're going to be people's forever game. You know what I mean? It's quite clearly a game made to be played for fun with people, and that's about it.
At least, like, the things about in the LS update were cool, too.
Right.
And still
so
support
now you
that.
have people who sit there and they develop a game, right? And they go, oh, the developers abandoned it.
Right.
What do you mean abandoned it? The game is complete.
Yeah, the game's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
You can play it.
Right.
So it's just like, there's just a fundamental, like, I think, unfortunately, in the age of anti-intellectualism, alongside that, a byproduct of that is the fact that so many people consider one thing to be an objective truth, when in actuality, these things were never the case, right? So, like, the concept of, like, oh, well, devs were always, like, these devs, when they release a game on PC, they always patch it. It's like, no, a patch is almost always a privilege and a fucking right. You know, there's a difference between, like, a situation where, like, the recent Mana game that came out, and those developers are just gone. So it's the publisher abandoning the game. So, like, any sort of patches, anything like that, or any kind of content that could have come out about it or fixed it, just is not going to happen because there's no developer there anymore.
Yeah, they had something, but it was like extremely minor. It was for a minor reason.
Yeah,
because they like the studio itself is dissolved and gone. Square Enix hired a bunch of those dudes because they weren't. The company that they were under was not a Japanese company, but Square still took some of them in anyway. But the company that would have done it anyway is gone.
Right. He is indeed a bastard. But I think that's the thing, is that, like, over-design is not really the thing. What it is it's just, like, because games cost so much money now, they have to be made for multiple audiences. So, the demographic increases. And the, like what Austin was saying, like, the scale, the scope, and the general idea of what they want the game to be has to increase alongside it. Because making niche games is going to make you niche money. And that's not going to be AAA. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
like, Monster Hunter Stories 3, even though it's based on that IP, that's still, like, a risk. I think it's really cool to see Capcom take it. Capcom is one of the only ones that can afford to do that, because they've been doing these other new IPs in RE Engine. I don't think they've done as well, but they've certainly literally been doing them. And I don't think there's any company besides them that really is going to funnel that much money and budget into a AAA JRPG that's turn-based.
Right.
Like, Square still produces them, but they're not going to get as much budget. And the return on them is not as safe, so it's crazy to see Capcom do that. You know, it's like a rare exception, because Capcom is just doing so well at the moment.
Yeah. So I'm kind of pumped for Pragmata. Like, I'm it's crazy. You know what's the craziest thing to me to learn the other day was that Exoprimal was one of the most expensive games Capcom had ever made. That's fucking crazy. That's insane. We all literally looked at that game and said, "Oh, it's a great AA game." It's the most expensive game they've ever made.
Damn.
In fucking say.
But it was, I mean, the risk of it flopping wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
They got away, they got away pretty scot-free out of that.
Oh, is my audio cutting out? And my Discord does that sometimes.
Your audio hasn't been doing that since you rejoined the call.
Okay.
Am I cutting out, or is the capture card cutting out?
I don't see anything happening on my end, so I can't tell.
Right, because for you, it was showing up cutting out in Discord.
Yeah. Damn, it has been almost 3 hours.
Right.
Time flies when you're having fun with You know what I meant.
Let's talk about the ancients.
What about the ancients?
We'll just gloss over that right now.
Small episodic releases of a game, $15 to $20, 8 hours of experience, followed by another year in a year. Damn, okay, Tifa, bye.
Oops. Menuing too fast.
Tifa's dead. Game
Oh,
over.
I had 7 potions. Never mind. Why is it
Dun, dun.
sort field? Why wouldn't it put potions at the top?
Because you're in field right now.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Deltarune. Yeah, I mean, that's a good example, but at the same time, it's not like if that's a different one. Which,
It's
by the
still-
way... ahead,
To
sir.
larger devs, it could be unsustainable. Especially
Yeah.
because there is a fall-off rate. That's really why, is because of the fall-off rate. Those later episodic releases are guaranteed to never sell as well as the others. We were talking about it with FF13 and its trilogy, and like the hopes and ambitions of it, and what the reality is that 13-2 and Lightning Returns were extremely shoestring budget releases because they were guaranteed not returns on their investment. And you simply lose that as if you're going to be episodic.
Which the difference with Remake is that literally everybody has the same exact fucking thing. When I about it, I will play it when it's finished.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people. So I'm pretty sure that Part 3 is going to 100% like bring a shit ton of sales. On top of the fact, they're releasing multi-platform day one. Which
Yeah.
they should have done in the fucking first place.
But here
But
we are.
unfortunately, Sony was the one, you know. It was an Epic Games Alan Wake 2 situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If they really get out of it, I'd be really impressed because it was like contractually obligated to do it like that, you know. But if Sony let them out of the contract,
No, they've already confirmed. Part
Yeah,
3 is
they did.
multi-platform.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which I was like reading back about how friendly Sony was with the original FF7 and like how supportive they were to get it on their platform and how they moved away from Nintendo. Because Sony was all up for what they were doing, just so they could get Final Fantasy on PlayStation, and how supportive they were. Though at the same time, the reason the localization for FF7 sucks in Spanish and the other languages in Europe is because they were all outsourced from Sony.
Yeah.
Sony outsourced those 4 languages. And of course, they all did it off of the English localization already.
Side note, speaking of localizations in Deltarune. Listen, I don't want to vilify Toby. It's still a bad take. It's still a really bad take. Especially considering you know that you have so many fans in South America. Like, come on, bro. Like, I get it. It's your baby. But you could totally you have enough money to work with somebody to, like, try to translate this for you in the way that you envision it. Come on, brother.
I can understand
Come
not
on.
doing it at the same time if it's already taking this long to handle what the project is now.
Right.
But taking time on it
Well, the real reason it's taking so fucking long is because I'm sure the reason that Undertale did what it did because it's mostly him. It's mostly him just doing everything.
Right.
So now that he has been pushed off onto other projects, essentially. I never got why Biggs and Jess are there, but okay.
Yeah. I guess just to remind you.
Yeah. I'm jealous all the fans will be able to buy the remake trilogy in a single package for a discount. Yeah, but think of it this way. They're going to have to play through 3 40-hour plus journeys. They're going to be burnt out.
Rebirth is a 100-hour game. Like,
yeah.
You can, I think in like a full trilogy release, we talked about this before, you can cut down some of Remake, and you'll have it at like 20 hours, but then you're going into a 100-hour RPG.
Right.
And also we have the fun of being aboard the wild ride up until then.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that, at that point, after like Rebirth, I was fine if people want to keep waiting, because you don't know what you're signing yourself up for. You're signing yourself up for a 200-hour RPG trilogy at that point.
Yeah. And unless you're like me, a maniac who plays Trails of Cold Steel 1, 2, 3, and 4 back to back.
Yeah. Like, you're really like signing yourself up to do a lot all at once in doing that. Because it is extensively far more than the original game was. Original FF7 you could clear in 40 hours, 50 hours, maybe, most. And Rebirth's already just pushed that out of the water. In just going into depth about these things. And you could have had, it's like also with those other things that they've cut from the original FF7, you certainly could have had that still. But that's also a benefit to this medium and how it was at the era, because you could just add and remove those parts of the game far more easily at the time. And in the way we produce games now, that's really not as much of an option to last minute cut things or last minute add anything. Especially if it's voiced. Voice acting scheduling is months in advance. It is months in advance. If you're missing anything, you're gonna have to wait months to get it voiced. If you do not already have something scheduled to get the voice actors back in. And talk about how many voice actors you're recruiting, especially for multiple languages.
Yeah, absolutely. Does the party ever tell Elmira that Eric died? No. Kate Sith does. Kate Sith talks. I just looked it up because I also forgot. Kate Sith, when he relocates them to Calm after the whole betrayal incident happens, essentially, and everything's going on with the Shinra Corporation, he relocates Elmira and Marlene to Calm, which is why Marlene is at the end of FF7 looking outside of her window at Meteor, and it's as opposed to being in Midgar. And he says that there he told Elmira. That's as much as we get in the
that's right,
OG.
yeah. Yep.
Phoenix only supports Japanese and English voice acting. Yeah.
Right, that's a for a case for a number of them. Because you need the budget of Nintendo and there to be able to plan that out. But I mean, for a lot of studios, like RGG for example, it was already an absurd undertaking to put in English as it was and get that, especially when you have to release the games for the same day worldwide. There's even up to that's a recent change since 2017 onward for Sega did not release worldwide simultaneously. Falcom has somehow managed to start doing it. That shit's crazy. They did not have the infrastructure or development pipelines to support doing that. And even
must have gotten some kind of person, some kind of benefactor or something.
And there were still like growing pains when they figured it out too. Like, I think it was Lost Judgment, or it was one of the Yakuza games where they had to remove the actor, and the game was still going to release worldwide. The English lip syncing was unfinished basically, and it had to release unfinished and in a really early state because there's literally not enough time for it. Xenoblade 2 has awful voice direction because they were not ready for a simultaneous worldwide release. They were not adapted to it yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad when we do get more voice support and everything, once we can expand it more.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, even remember back in the day, facilitating localization wasn't even a thing, where they were like, Japanese developers were surprised that for localizing they needed source code retained. And they're like, oh, what do you need that for?
Yeah.
It's all funny. Unexpected.
Yeah, it's funny. The most recent game that I think has done this, that I think that at this point they should just start fucking doing, so that people can just shut up, to be honest with you. Ninja Gaiden 4. Have you played that at all? Did you see that craziness?
I've seen plenty of it through streams.
So, the Japanese script is direct translation. The English script is localized.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like entirely two different characters.
Oh, I see.
So
well, they do that with Yakuza these days.
Right. Yeah, so like with fucking Yakumo, he tells Ayana to fuck off in English, but in Japanese he just kind of like, goes whatever and like walks away.
Right.
He's a lot more stoic, whereas in English he's a lot more combative.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we just need to do. We just need to be able to fucking, if we're gonna have a dual track audio, just do the direct translation so people can have it and just not complain at this point.
Right. It is more work, but I think it pays off.
Right. That being said, that is a crazy, like, stance to take for a localizer to quite literally misrepresent a particular character, or quote unquote infuse them with an energy they didn't necessarily need. Historically, Moira Burton from Resident Evil 2 Revelations does not curse at all in the Japanese version of Revelation. In Revelations 2 in America, she is in English constantly. She's got a potty mouth. She is constantly cursing at all times. It is a very different take, and I think that's the thing that I will kind of concede when it comes to localization is when you are literally doing the fucking jelly donuts are my favorite type shit.
Right.
That's where I kind of go, that's not good. They need to fix that.
It's open-ended. There's no clear-cut short end way to put it.
Right.
And how it can be handled. It's nuanced because language is nuanced. Right.
Yeah. Because what's happening in the remake discourse is people are going, why does this imply this over that? I'm like, well, it's a lot more romantic in English than it is in any other language, or specifically Japanese. Like, there's things that are either more romantic or they're just, the implication is the same but worded differently and requires a little bit more introspection as opposed to outright telling you, which sometimes the Japanese script will do so. And that's just, once again, that is just the thing that happens, is sometimes, that's why you look at direct Japanese translations, it's very, very straightforward. A lot of conversation lacks kind of the human element that you would find in English, because in Japanese it's just going to sound different because of how their culture is. It's just going to be, we do not understand the idioms and the phrases and the turn, the way that they speak, right? And because we're not fucking native Japanese speakers, so there's going to be things that in their language makes more sense than it does in English, and that's what makes localization so difficult, is trying to translate that same notion but do so in a way that people from one location will understand over the other.
Mm-hmm.
That's why
it's so hard to help, especially with Japanese has its own eras as well. and then like modern Gyaru speak is so fucking cryptic, even the Japanese speakers it can be.
Right.
And it's how the fuck are you gonna possibly handle that, like, on a per line basis? And Japan loves its wordplay. It absolutely, it's such a pun centric language. It loves it. And that is going to be seen more corny and in translation. You can't really help that factor.
Yeah. Like, I mean, to what Arios is saying, it's like a problem when localizers is that modern American memes would be inserted. You know that's a replacement for a Japanese meme, right?
Yeah,
that's what that is.
In most cases, yeah, that's the situation.
That's the problem, is that, like, it's not, you cannot convey that in a way to where it makes sense for American audiences or just even Western audiences as a whole. Because what you're talking about, you have to go to the gun shop to get the battery.
This one or machine gun?
No, machine gun.
Buzzword.
But that's the thing, is that people, like, very rarely do you have that situation. I think a lot of people, they point out, like, there's, like, one anime that had, like, a YouTuber who, like, was the localization, and he actively went in there with the intention of ruining the localization because he did not like the anime. It's the guy on the left.
Yep.
And they always bring that up as like, oh, this is what all localizers are doing. It's like, no, that was just one guy and he got shit on for it. So, I get it. You know what I mean? You think it's cringe, but that's what they're doing. It's either you think it's cringe or you don't understand what they're saying, guys. Like,
right.
Pick one or the other. Which is why when I sit there and go, if you want the full experience, just learn Japanese. I know it sounds shitty, but it is going to be a different experience because of how their language works.
Right. It can't really help it. And it's too, like... And Xenoblade 2, the more I look into it and how much was supposed to be references in other cultures in Xenoblade 2, but that really isn't attempted to be there, but that is also part of the rush nature of it. But you can be more critical of that. Like, Xenoblade 2 is one you could be more critical of. You know, not stuck
or
up
Xenoblade
on...
in general, right? Xenoblade 3, Spark this, Spark no Sparkin' way. They're saying fuck. In the Japanese translation, they're saying fuck, but they can't say that because we look at curse words differently. Like, if you look at the Japanese script for Xenoblade 3, they curse a shit ton in Xenoblade 3. So they were like, how do we convey that without, you know, turning into an M-rated game? Spark in this. And that's like, oh, okay, that's a really cool way to kind of localize that while also sort of giving flavor to the world. And that's the kind of, like, that's what makes localization so difficult.
Yeah. Same with, like, localizing Kansai dialect and how different that always goes and how different it can make, how much more sense it can make in certain contexts. Like, are you gonna make that a Brooklyn accent? Is it gonna be a Southern accent?
Right.
And in some cases, like, it makes more sense in other ways, where just because, like, the culture of it isn't one-to-one with, like, our South or our Boston or New York area. It's not one-to-one with it, but it is something adjacent to it, and depending on where it is, it can make more sense. Like with, would Joey in Yu-Gi-Oh! Really be speaking Southern? Would he have a Southern accent? Like, no, it probably makes more sense to have him be the Boston accent.
Right.
I'm doing this on purpose, by the way. This is all a bit.
There you go, Arios. You know what? That's the kind of self-introspection we love to see, buddy. And that's completely fine. I think that's the thing. You can 100% sit there and say you don't like that thing happening, But that's a lot of the problem, is that people like to, instead of sitting there and being like, maybe I just don't like it personally, they immediately go, it's the translator's fault.
Right.
It's like, that's not the case. The case is they're trying to find a way to, in a very literal sense, translate this to how you're going to understand it as someone who is part of that demographic. So
yeah, the metaphor is a very good example. It's really interesting, and it leads to a plot point. Did you play Metaphor?
I did.
Where everyone does have some sort of European accent except the main character. And then it goes from there when you find more people that don't have the accent.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's sort of lost if you play that game with the Japanese voice acting, because you're not hearing the accents, and I think that their accents are so thick on some of those characters that you're just gonna like not be able to understand them if you're trying to only read them. It's like same thing in Dragon Quest. Their accents are so thick that you kind of have to hear the voices with them to understand it. And in some cases, there's definitely cases where it's not even the accent, it's just hearing how the line is said in English. There's a lot of English lack of media literacy that can reinterpret how people hear a localization. Like, Teddy in Persona 4 does have explicit moments that address why he's weird like that, but it doesn't spell it out enough for some people, and also, maybe they should go, like, further in trying to explain why Teddy is like that.
Right.
And you also have to just hear, like, how the voice actors deliver their lines, because that also adds to the interpretation of them. There was a line at the beginning of Metaphor that was, like, oddly put under a microscope for localization from, What's-Her-Face talking to the protagonist, where she calls him a dopey kid, and it sounds insulting if you're not reading it with the voice actor and hearing how she's saying the line in English. She's saying the line in English with concern for him. Very clear, distinct concern, and you're gonna miss, like, that. You're gonna miss, like, sarcasm if you're not hearing the English voice actors with it, which is also what you're talking about with Ninja Gaiden 4, having the separate script for it, and Yakuza having the separate script for it. That is more, if you're gonna play with the Japanese subtitles and you're playing this experience, that's the benefit of that, and that's what that problem solves. It's a bit. Yeah, exactly. The Japanese did have different accents.
They did, but it's harder for someone who's not used to Japanese
to understand
to hear that.
Yeah, if you can't tell a Kansai dialect, like if you can't hear what a Kansai dialect is, I don't know, man. That's a pretty big, like, check right there of how well you're gonna handle it.
Right. It's like the Kansai dialect is the very quick way to kind of met it out is if traditional, like, Japanese, like, Tokyo dialect would be something like eh, whereas, like, in Kansai it'd be like eh, and, like, that's a very like, they roll a lot of their letters. Like, there's a lot of, like, enunciating certain parts of the word that is just
my stupid baka life. Go on.
Yeah, kind of sounds like how do you say, how to explain it? It doesn't sound like country speak, which is, like, the craziest thing to me. It's given more to rural, like, talking characters, but it's not because it's, like, it inherently is like someone talking like they're from the country. It's more like just rough. Like, Kansai dialect is a rough sounding accent.
Yeah, it's and it's not easy, and context is also, like, Japanese is another language where context entirely changes a really simple and why, and you'll see that translated into, like, multiple words, and words that have context, because that's you're not going to get that interpretation otherwise.
Right.
Just something as simple as a sound like that is going to end up having a different meaning depending on the context. where it can't just be as simple as huh, yeah,
right.
okay.
Even fucking Cloud's catchphrase, was a little different back here. Like we didn't get not interested until much later on. He didn't have a catchphrase in the OG translation, but like there's a really good example of it in Trails specifically, Trails in the Sky. There is a string of words that Estelle constantly says, and if it was just like purely translated directly, it would not give her in the English text as much character as it does with the translator, like doing what they're doing with the localizer. But if you directly translate the line, it is straight up just the same word. But because the context of the situation is different every time she uses it, it has different meaning.
Yeah.
So it's just like, how do you convey that? You don't. You have to make something up for it.
Like, we have examples of that in English, but it's not nearly as prominent.
Yeah.
Like, yeah or yeah? Like a sarcasm?
Yeah.
Like, that's
even
how language is.
Yeah, they have nani, but then they also have eh.
For every time you misunderstand a person reading text, like it is and then it again turns into a literacy thing.
Yeah, I think this scene, maybe the localizer is having a little too much on the OG translation.
Right. Well, there was there's still, like, even in the original, Barrett brings up Marlene, and then I believe, like, Tifa's reminding him of that. So it's not even just, like, the slur. It's the whole context of the scene dropped its meaning because of how it was originally localized.
Right.
And you have nothing to do but read those words because you're just doing this.
Yeah.
I had another point, but there was a lot.
My bad.
No, you're fine. Oh, I was gonna bring up an awkward one that I don't know how to chalk up to. And that's in Kingdom Hearts, and Axel got it memorized.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a very awkward sounding phrase to make a catchphrase. It takes a very long time for it to start becoming endearing. But at the same time, that's a really hard one to, follow.
Yeah.
And that's where I think about, but we were talking about, Barrett and how he was handled is the reason behind Nojima being more considerate of how he does characters, and how more involved Nomura got in localizations later than that. Like I was saying in my script, FF7 was really at the epicenter of a lot of things for localization.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because of how well the game sold, but reception.
Think about the difference between how Squaresoft approached fucking FF7's translation to Vagrant Story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of the animosity from Japanese devs at the time just came because the pipeline, they didn't understand it. And the pipelines for development for localization did not support localization. Because up until FF7's success, it was a small consideration.
Mm-hmm.
It was at that point, that shift in it was a I think it was for FF7 or maybe it was FF8. The dude at Squaresoft was talking about how he had ideas he was pitching to. No, maybe it was in other Squaresoft games. They were told by the head staff in the Japan studio, the ideas for localization that they want to do are not physically possible. So for one of those examples, he went the the person in charge of localization was in the Tokyo office. So he went in and edited the source code for the game, for the system he wanted for the localization, all on his own. And then he showed it to Kitase Nojima. He showed it to someone and was like, see, I did it already. It does work. And they didn't take it out because, well, it worked. But he was upset that he kind of did that. But it is because you have a system in place. You have a whole process and system in place. And especially when you're already mid-development, it's going to irritate many of those devs. But at the same time, they understand the importance of it and what it is.
Right.
Especially after that point. But it was just because like the lack of communication and the lack of the language barrier with making the game support that. I didn't want to go all the way to the end of Midgar in this stream, but we're this far in. I don't know, as long as we can keep going with it and keep yapping.
I was actually gonna kind of skedaddle a little bit, if you don't mind.
I mean, I'm exhausted too, so I'm okay with that. We got a lot out of the way. It sucks to end on this, but like I said, I am going to continue playing this, so I am going to take Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off, but Thursday through Sunday I plan to continue streams, so I can be back for this and continue playing FF7. I'm playing like 100 games at once, but still, like, this playthrough of it will continue, and I may want to make this a priority since I'm working on the FF7 video.
Absolutely.
But yeah, to finish this battle and conclude it. But yeah, thanks, Phil, for sticking around. If anyone wants to tune in and Phil and hear more what Phil does, which Twitch channel should I direct them to?
Sure. I'll pull up my to make sure. So it's just gonna be my normal Phil's here, PHILLZHURR on Twitch. I want to go back to streaming. I've been kind of like not doing as much. We did a lot of Requiem streams, then I did one like Crimson Desert stream, but I think I want to go back and try to do some more Neo. But I also kind of want to start going through and playing some older titles just for fun. I also stream, unfortunately, in the mornings because of the fact that I work 2:30 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time during the week. So that's if you guys are early morning gamers, you can go ahead and show up there. But I'm going to possibly start, and while we're waiting for Pragmata to come out, I'll be starting up a Binary Domain playthrough because that game is awesome.
But yeah, and then YouTube channel. It's still Phil's.
My YouTube channel is still. Let me go ahead and click on. Where did I? Oh boy, I gotta freaking add it again. Okay, where is it? It's like it was giving me some issues. Where I had to like clear the whole cache.
Right. And link them in chat too, but
yes, it's still gonna be. Still gonna be PHILLZHURRZ. Phil's Hears.
Yeah, you want to link them in chat, you just straight up can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, anyone wants to hear more of Phil, they're welcome to. Over on his socials. My playthrough of this is gonna be more reading and following the dialogue. I'm probably gonna turn off the extra scenes. But yeah, I have a lot of work I'm lining up, and yeah, the next port review I want to do is redoing FF7, and I'm making a good ways into that, and I will continue on that in the meantime.
And then you can bet your bottom dollar we'll be together reacting to anything Final Fantasy Part 3.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll see what we get later this year.
All right, I'll check you later, my friend.
Yep, I'll see you later, Phil.
Bye.
Bye. And that's it for us, chat. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I will be live today's Sunday, right? So I'll be live on Thursday maybe, and through and continue. If you look on my Twitch channel, I have a whole, in my about section is a bunch of backlog games. But there's a lot to go through and a lot to do, so I'm trying to stream to get some consistency in my schedule. I'm not even as worried about the content itself as I am just the scheduling to get myself on track again. But that's what my plan is there, so. Alright, yep, thanks everyone for tuning in, and until next time, thank you all for the continued support, and bye for now.